You're gonna have to switch off the ad on there. How? I don't know when, Brooks.
Ready?
Go. All right, so allegedly we are live. I can't tell. There's a ton of commotion going on in the background. But my name is Charlie Minato, and welcome to halfwheel.com's coverage of the 2019 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show. If you can hear me fine, if the audio hasn't crapped out, it would be great if we could get like a thumbs up, in the comments, virtually speaking. Brooks keeps making adjustments over here. How are we doing in the comments? Sweet. All right, so Tony Morales, who is in Las Vegas, says we are good to go. So my name is Charlie Minato, and this is our Facebook Live coverage. We're here on a Thursday. There seems to be a ton of technical difficulties in the background. And we are here at the Davidoff of Geneva since 1911 Cigar Bar in Las Vegas on the Strip at the Fashion Show Mall, right across the street from the Venetian Sands, which is where the convention is being held this year. And like we did last year, we're going to have a ton of guests on. And so the guest list goes, if I'm not mistaken here, we're going to start with Matt Arcella in a couple minutes. And he is the proprietor here of the Davidoff Cigar Bar. We're then going to be joined by Fabien Ziegler from Jersey State, who I can see in the background. Patrick Lagreid is going to handle that interview, as well as an interview of Nick Perdomo. And then he's also going to interview Steve Saka or Skip Martin. He's interviewing Skip Martin. After Skip is Steve Saka, I will jump back in for the Steve Saka interview. We'll close out with Dylan Austin, who is the president of Americas for Davidoff of, I guess Davidoff of everything, but Davidoff of Geneva, USA. And so, if you have questions, we have Brian, Burt, and Heather back there monitoring the questions. They will text them to me throughout, but we're running a little bit behind, and so without further ado, I think we're going to get Matt to come on. How's it going, Matt? Going good. All right. Patrick, can you monitor the audio just for a second, since I don't think, or if Brian is, then we're good. All right, Matt, so how's it going? It's been a little frantic?
It sure has been, but in a good way.
Has anyone ever done this like this before in the store?
We have not had a live stream or anything remotely close recently, so this is exciting.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a little bit different. This is the first time we've ever done it this off location. If you want to just tilt that microphone a little, no, you can physically just move the microphone. It's on a stool. There you go. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we have some cigars here. Thank you, Brian Burt. And these are your cigars, right?
These are our 20th anniversary cigars that Davidoff was kind enough to make for us, celebrating our 20th year this year of operating Davidoff stores in Las Vegas.
All right, and I think that's a point that we should talk about. Why don't you talk through, because a lot of people, they look at the Davidoff stores, they all kind of look the same, because Davidoff has this very specific aesthetic, but what is it like, because you own this store. This is not a Davidoff-owned store, which is different than some of the other stores. Some of the stores in New York, they own. The store in Atlanta, Houston, et cetera, they all own those stores. But this is your store, right?
Correct, yes.
And so what's that like working with, because most people probably have no clue. There's only three of you now that in the U.S. that are Davidoff franchises?
Correct. And by design, it shouldn't be inferred by the consumer that there is a difference. And so we want everyone to have the same experience globally whenever they walk into a Davidoff boutique. So it's important during the architecture and design phase to adhere to the global brand standards and have a nice sense of synergy with Davidoff to make sure that we're executing what their long-standing vision has been. And the partnership there really allows us to capitalize on the mutual benefits from marketing and branding to clienteling and communicating with the overall customers. And so it's been a great partnership over the years, but it also is imperative that we consistently maintain those goals and standards and customer service. And so it's been a lot of fun, and I definitely couldn't imagine working with any other company on the level that we work with Davidoff.
And so this cigar, obviously 20 years. this store has not been here for 20 years.
No.
It's relatively new.
Yeah.
And so for those of our viewers that don't know, you guys also operate this store, but in the Venetian and in the Venetian Plaza, you have the Davidoff store physically, and
Correct.
then you also have the kiosks still there, or did
They are still there.
Okay.
So it's in the Venetian and the Palazzo, as well as MGM Grand, Mandalay Bay, and the Paris Resort. The one we're sitting in right now was really the new direction that we wanted to take it, creating more of an experiential component with the patio that overlooks the strip. So it still retains the retail concept of a walk-in humidor with a complete line of accessories and all of the smoking accoutrements, but it is an actual destination where both cigar connoisseurs to more of the casual smokers that are in Las Vegas and maybe traditionally wouldn't have a cigar can come and enjoy one, as well as those who are seeking pretty rare and hard to find cigars.
And so, obviously, when people think of cigar stores in Vegas, Casa Fuente has been here for a very long time, has a bar program. You have a bar program here, which is the first time Davidoff ever had a branded store at the bar?
Yes.
And so, and then there's obviously a Casa Monte Cristo now. Vegas has gotten very busy very quickly when it comes to cigar bars. What would you say sets this one apart from maybe the other two stores? Obviously, it's not at Caesars would be one very obvious answer.
Correct. We strived very hard from conception all the way through to execution to make this a very welcoming environment for both smokers and non-smokers. And so I feel that where a lot of other properties will focus specifically on catering exclusively to kind of the cigar connoisseur fanatic, we want both women to feel as welcome as men, the occasional cigar smoker to feel as welcome as the person, like I said, who's very passionate about cigars. And so from overall ambiance to the design of it, as well as the customer service, we feel that this is a more inviting destination kind of for all the people that visit Las Vegas.
Yeah, I would say the other thing that maybe doesn't get noticed enough is that there are different areas in the store. It's not obviously, Casa Monte Cristo Casa Fuente has a bar that you can sit out and smoke in, and they basically have indoor and somewhat indoor seating, but it's all basically seating. Here we've got this area that we're in, which is sort of a private area. There's the bar, then there's the chairs across the curve of the bar, and then there's obviously outside, which is a fairly diverse amount of places to smoke a cigar in what's not that large of a store, for being quite honest.
Correct. And so it's been this delicate balance of creating pockets of intimacy where you can have private conversations to more of communal areas. And with the floor-to-ceiling windows, it's allowed us the use of a lot of natural light and views, which are also something not traditionally found in most cigar bars, which tend to have a semblance of darkness and more masculine tone. And so it's got kind of a modern design, and the functionality of it is such as you described, which is pretty unique and a lot of fun.
And so I think the most unique thing about this store is where we're at. We're on the strip. It's literally that way, 15 feet, 20 feet that way.
Correct.
What's that like? It's got to be crazy operating, because you don't. For those people that don't know, and I would imagine most store viewers don't know, you don't just operate cigar stores with Davidoff. You also have other retail outlets. What's it like having these businesses in one of the most transient places in the world?
It's like, as you're noting, it is extremely chaotic and busy. Literally, almost every day is kind of like the Super Bowl for us. From the convention business, which is here probably 50 weeks out of the year, Monday through Friday, to every weekend there's a reason to celebrate, whether it's March Madness, the 4th of July coming up, New Year's, events such as IPCPR, to Big Smoke. There's always a reason why people are traveling to Las Vegas. And all of our programs run very close to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So from a staffing and operation standpoint, it encompasses a very large team. And then, again, to kind of maintain the standards that we put upon ourselves as well as our partners, that brings in a lot of training. And so, as with most of your guests coming on later, we work very closely with all companies to make sure that our team has a full understanding of their products and how to present that to the customers. So it is rewarding having stores on the strip. It's very busy, but it is also a lot of chaos.
Do you have a particular favorite convention that's not cigar related?
I really like CES, the Computer Electronics Show in January. Brings in a lot of innovative people who come out with products that seem relevant and fun. And so that would be a good one. Whenever we have Surfaces, which is another convention that comes in town, the Aftermarket Auto Show brings in a lot of good people and some cool stuff. Yeah.
In what, October, November?
It is, yeah.
Earlier than that.
Yep, right at the end of the year.
Yeah. So, is there like a favorite weekend, non-convention related?
By far and away, the best weekend in Las Vegas, in my opinion, is the first weekend of March Madness. It's usually right around St. Patrick's Day, and that Thursday through Sunday where you have 16 college games a day. The weather's beautiful, and that is usually the most fun weekend. Kentucky Derby, I believe, is that weekend as well, and so that's a good time to be in Vegas.
Yeah, no, the Kentucky Derby is a little bit later. It's the Cinco de Mayo and the Kentucky Derby are the same.
Yeah.
Two very, very similar events.
Yeah.
Horse racing and a somewhat made-up holiday. All right, so we're here. One thing that's interesting about your store is if you win big across the street or down the street, there's a lot of stuff that you can come in here and spend quite a bit of money on. Why don't we talk through some of that stuff? So in the humidor, you have a pretty steady supply of Oro Blancos, from what I understand. At least compared to most stores.
Probably,
yeah.
Yes.
And so, like, are you selling that to people that went big on the tables, or you have, like, regulars that come in here that are just dropping $500 on more than that here? We
actually have a little bit of both. Yeah. We do have a little bit of both. We have the people who will consistently come in to purchase it because that's the cigar they like to enjoy. It tends to be a gift from people that would like to come in and buy one for someone that they care a lot about. And so that's been a great cigar for us.
And then at the bar, unfortunately our viewers can't see it, but like right behind the wide camera that's been set up here is quite a bit of high-end liquor. And then we got champagne over there, right?
Correct. Yep.
So liquor-wise, I can see there's some Pappy, there's some Orphan Barrel, some Scotch. Anything in particular you would say that you're really proud of having?
I'm very proud of our Pappy selection. We've been very fortunate in that we tend to carry all the different vintages of the Pappy. We have a big Macallan 25 and Macallan M clientele, much larger than I would have initially thought, and so we do very well in those. But our beverage program is constantly evolving and changing. Similar to cigars, there's this, every few months you kind of want to make sure that you're keeping it fresh and different and kind of shifting towards what the consumers are looking for, so it's constantly evolving.
And so that Macallan customer base, is that transient or is that like local, or is that people that are coming in regular?
So what's interesting about our clientele is initially we thought it would have been all tourist and transient based, but people come to Las Vegas consistently, and so if you're here for a convention, you come once a year, and so we actually have a huge consumer base that are regular repeat customers. We just may not see them again for another 12 months. What's unique about the Davidoff cigar bar that we're sitting in as opposed to our other retail stores is we do have a large local portion of our consumer base, and so when it comes to the Macallan, I would say the M is more focused on the tourist market, and the Macallan 25 is for a lot of the locals that come in to enjoy it.
All right, and so cocktail list here, anything in particular you recommend for a first-time visitor?
For a cocktail, our old fashioned is really good.
All right.
Yeah, so I would recommend that.
Can we get that like in Slurpee format? It's a little hot outside. Although not that hot for July. It's quite mild,
actually really not bad.
But it's still like
right
100
now.
degrees outside.
Exactly, which is not bad for Vegas right now.
Take what we can get. All right, so I think we are, I don't know what's going on over there, but it seems like maybe we fixed out all these technical difficulties, but thank you for having us here. Hopefully we don't make too much of a mess. I mean, there's things everywhere. And if we're going to get Patrick over here, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe we're going to kill some dead air? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everything.
No, Matt.
Love having you guys.
I'm so glad here. And so if you're in Vegas this week, Davidoff's here Monday? Sunday?
Saturday.
Yep. I was going to get there eventually. So Davidoff's is here Saturday, and that's kind of open to all attendees.
Correct.
You got to have a badge. So not open to consumers, but open to all attendees. That'll be a couple hundred people. And I'm sure we'll be here as well. So I'll see you then.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
All right, so we're going to have Matt depart here. And then Patrick is allegedly going to take over. Is he ready to take over? You ready, Patrick? Yeah, you're. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Remember when we went over that a second ago? Okay.
Charlie doesn't like me.
No, it's not that. It's I have to go fix that camera.
That's what he told me. Yeah, I know. That's what he told me. It's all right. Oh. Good times, good times. Well, welcome everybody. Hope you're enjoying the broadcast so far. Patrick Lagreid here. Getting plugged in, getting settled in. Got cigars. Brooks, should you get a cigar?
Got it.
All right. So next up, we are really, really excited to welcome a very special guest. Probably one of the coolest guys in the cigar industry. And it's a big deal because it's the 20th anniversary of a company he's become very closely associated with. The one, the only, Dirty Fabien Ziegler.
My man, what's going on, buddy?
How you doing, man?
First of all, I gotta say, it's great to be here. This beautiful cigar store here at Davidoff at Geneva, here in Las Vegas. Great times.
Good times. When did you get into Vegas?
Like 47 minutes ago.
Get out of here, really?
Yes, 47 minutes
Like
ago.
straight off the plane?
Straight off the plane.
What do you roll now? Go like a G7, G8?
Yeah, you know.
Because I know Acid's doing all right. So
I was on G20 on this flight right
There you
here.
go.
Yeah, so it's very bumpy from Miami.
There it is.
But I was in row G, or seat row 20, seat G.
all right.
But yes.
Well, hey, it got you here.
It got me here. I'm here on time, and we're here at the Las Vegas IPCPR launching
Indeed.
some great stuff.
Indeed. Well, welcome. You look great, first and foremost.
Thank you.
So much to talk about because that cigar was the last thing that we posted about before we went live. And this is a really big year for Acid and, I mean, Drew Estate in
Well, do
general.
you remember what you were doing in 1999?
I was, are we talking like May of, well, if we're talking 20 years ago, which would have
Yes.
been the end of June, I was going into my senior year in college at the
Okay.
University of San Francisco.
Man, so I'm older than you.
I was
Okay.
living in I stayed in San Francisco for the summer.
All right.
And was, getting ready to figure out what the heck I was going to do with the rest of my life.
So right at the same time
yeah,
is when Drew Estate launched Acid.
Yeah.
20 years ago. We're celebrating 20 years of Acid. We were told last year that Acid became the #1 brand in the U.S. We're very happy. I mean, props to all the people that smoke Acid cigars out there. All the people that smoke Acid cigars in stores, out of stores. I mean, what I say to a lot of people is that it's a cigar for everybody and a cigar for nobody.
sure.
But everyone has to experience Acid.
Right.
I mean, you can't just read it. You could smell it, but to truly understand it,
And you know
we
what's
need
fun?
to
Yeah.
experience it.
And I remember my
So
first
let's
Acid.
experience one.
Let's do it.
Come on. All right.
What do we got?
Here's
Ooh.
one of the newest ones. It's the Acid 20. That's right. So when we had our guys down in Nicaragua, they're looking at the Acid 20 coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and there's two main things that we are going to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it had to be a cigar that would be a cigar for every acid smoker.
Right.
The acid smoker that smokes them every day, and the acid smokers that smoke them once a year.
And because even though we refer to acid sort of as this specific thing, but acid is a pretty diverse term. And I'd
right.
have to assume because you go out and you're seeing acid smokers, that there are guys who are Cuba guys, and there are guys who are not. It's
Exactly, yeah. So Cuba is our #1 selling SKU, and it is the sweetest and the most aromatic.
Okay.
Now here's the biggest problem, right? So if someone comes in and wants to try an acid, sometimes they make the biggest mistake. You got it. They make the biggest mistake of all by trying out the Cuba first.
okay.
But as a traditional cigar smoker, you're not necessarily used to non-traditional cigar or infused cigar. So no matter what grade of sweetness the cigar has, you're going to think it's overly sweet.
Okay.
Okay. But it's the subconsciousness that works against you. It goes, oh man, I'm smoking a cigar. Most cigars aren't sweet, but I'm tasting sweet.
Sure, right.
So let me focus on sweet.
Okay.
So hopefully, you can withstand the sweetness,
Right.
the alarms in your head for the first half inch to an inch, and then what happens you'll see is the sweetness you would think dissipates. But the sweetness never really dissipates. What happens is your mind stops playing tricks on you, and it allows the sweetness to be part of the cigar instead of working against the cigar.
Okay.
So knowing that concept, when they try the acid Cuba Cuba, which is the sweetest, most likely you're gonna have to smoke at least half of it before the sweetness can be part of the cigar and not work against the cigar. So if there's anyone out there, all your millions and millions of followers and listeners, because I know you guys are huge, you're like the number one here in the cigar industry. If you want to try an acid for the very first time, the one I would point towards is actually going to be the Acid 20,
okay,
or one that's already existing, which is the Acid Toast.
Okay.
So your question is why the Acid 20?
It is. Why the Acid 20?
Okay, there you go. So why the Acid 20? So first of all, you start off with a phenomenal San Andreas Negra Maduro wrapper.
Okay.
An Indonesian binder and Nicaraguan filler that we infuse with botanical and herbal oils. All right, we sweeten the tip a little bit. You get some of the sweetness.
Right. Because that was one of my questions.
But the Maduro is a very thick leaf, so it actually absorbs some of the sweetness.
Okay.
So not only is you get a sweetness from the Maduro, but you get sweetness from the top. But it goes very, very well. It's you're gonna get a little bit of spice from the Nicaraguan.
Okay.
Wait, I'm talking a lot. You got to say something. Come on.
Well, no, it's really interesting that you talk about it, because I guess I had never considered what you were talking about as far as the mind sort of playing tricks on you with this.
Yeah.
And then the sweetened tip, because I definitely taste that.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you get into it a little bit, by the time you're a third in, it's now not new. And so now you're going into, what is this now that I've been exposed to it for 20, 30 minutes, and how does that taste?
Well, you have to understand that in any of the acid cigars that we use, we actually use premium Nicaraguan tobacco, and it's the same tobaccos that we use in some of our other brands, like Undercrown and Nica Rustica and some other stuff. So it's premium Nicaraguan tobacco. It's not like we're trying to mask bad tobacco and let's just add stuff to it so we can. It really is. And in the Acid 20 or the Acid Toast or some of these other acids that are not as sweet, you actually do taste the good tobacco once your subconsciousness stops focusing on the sweetness.
Okay.
And it's the whole package. It's what it is you don't smoke an acid cigar, you experience it.
Okay.
Because it hits all your senses. Like a regular cigar hits all your senses.
Sure.
But this is to the next level.
Okay.
Because again, when you grew up, you understood what sweet was, what bitter was, what saltiness was. You never really understood what tobacco tastes like. Your understanding of tobacco taste is your years and your different cigars of you smoking and understanding, oh yeah, all right, so this is Nicaraguan and I get some of the earthy tones to it from Nicaraguan. This is Dominican, so I'm going to get some of these, other tones over here, and this is Honduran. So as you smoke more cigars, you built your repertoire of knowledge of tobacco.
Okay.
So with acid, you start off with sweet. And there are a few that are not sweet. You have the acid liquid, the acid nasty. We had the nefasto. Some stores still have some nefastos out there. Those were the red label, and those are not sweet. So, again, you get nice Nicaraguan tobacco infused with botanical and herbal oils.
So let's talk about the infusion a little bit, because I know that Drew Estate is guarded about what goes into this.
Yeah.
Is this a new infusion for the 20? Is this a new? I don't know. I want to use the term blend because that's what is familiar to me in terms of cigars.
Well, so what it is, it's a blend that we've worked on. We with these new FDA regulations, there were a lot of cigars that were out there for short batches and whatnot. And when this cigar came out, it came out for a short while, and we're like, this is way too good for just regular. So we pulled it back.
Okay.
And then we're bringing it back.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this really is something. I mean, all you guys out there that enjoy the Cuba Cuba, you're going to enjoy this. All you guys out there that enjoy the liquid, you're going to enjoy. If you enjoy any acid cigar, this is your celebration. This is your moment of time where you can actually, go to your local store and you actually get your 20 and you celebrate with us for these lovely 20 years of experiences. A lot of people started smoking with cigars with acid.
Sure.
So you know what? All you people out there that started smoking cigars like 10, 15, maybe 18 years ago, even 2 years ago with an acid, come back to us and try an acid 20. They're going to be in your stores in probably in late August, September, and whatnot. But yeah, it's going to be good. It's a cigar that is worthy of the 20 years. So
Okay.
and I know we're pressed in time, but there's some very exciting other brands that we're releasing.
Absolutely, because I mean, I know acid. This is the big thing. I mean, acid 20, but we've got the return of the
20,
BOTL.
Acid 20 is our big thing, but we have BOTL, which was a little cigar that we released for a little bit. We have this beautiful box right here, a heavy box.
I'm loving this.
There
I'm
we go,
so
right
excited
here.
about this.
That's right. So did you try the original BOTL?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
I was.
all right.
It was like I got pulled 6 years back in memory lane from when I heard about these coming out. I mean,
Okay.
really, it was incredible.
So because of the BOTL and Brothers of the Leaf, it's going to be smaller ring gauges,
Right.
more for the connoisseurs, I want to say.
Sure.
The Coronas, the Panatellas. It comes in 3 different sizes, and you're going to get very flavorful, and it is the exact same blend as X amount of years. I think it's 8 years ago, 6 years ago, or
The first one that I remember came out in 2010, and I think Drew Estates was
9
12
years.
and 13.
okay. So yeah, 7 years ago.
Right.
So it is the same blend, and you know, I mean, it's very, very small numbers though. Like I said, 3 sizes, and there's only 750 boxes of each this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now next year we might do a little bit more. We just want to, you know, like tickle the fancy a little bit. We want to come out with some traditional brands,
Right.
but we don't want to lose focus that this year is Acid 20. So,
Sure.
so you know, we got some other stuff. We got another special release with Paul, which is Shady 20, and that's an expansion to the Undercrown line.
Now, I
You
would
got
say-
the Shady 20.
Now, here's what's crazy. This is 20 years old. This is 20 years old. I remember Eminem's first record.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I mean,
Can you sing us a song?
no. I mean, I'm Slim Shady, the real
Okay,
Slim Shady.
all right.
All you other Slim Shadys are.
We're
just
all Slim
imitators.
Shady.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I remember a little bit of it, but when I don't know what it was because I didn't feel quite as old when I heard Acid was turning 20. When I heard Shady Records was 20, I was like, oh my god, this
Yeah,
is
1999, and you know, trust us. We made a great blend. So here's the exciting part, because 5 years ago for Shady 15, it was a release only in Michigan.
Right.
This is actually a release nationwide to all our DDRP stores.
Okay.
So all the big, you know, we have over 473 stores, I think, nationwide. DDRP stores. There are big followers that they have a nice selection of all our cigars.
Right.
So you will be able to find these in all our DDRP stores. I think in August or September. So
How does it compare to the original one?
You know what? I'm the wrong person to ask.
Okay.
And
Because there's a lot of questions I got when we posted this that were being left as comments on the post, which is, number one, how's it taste to the original? And how is it related or comparable to, like, Dogma,
Well,
for instance?
I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I'm extra smart today, so I
Okay.
could make up an answer.
Sure.
But I am completely the wrong person to ask because, as you know, I'm the very non-traditional cigar guy for
Right.
Drew Estate. So I could tell you the intricacies between acids, between all the Laratans, the Ambrosias, the you know, Fat Bottom Betty and Juicy Lucy and all
Right.
that. But
And we got some new ones in that, too, so let's
we
not
got
get
some,
too
we
far
got
away
some
from
new
that.
ones. Yeah, we got some new ones in those. But I am sad in saying this. I mean, you know, I have been with the company for 19 years, and for me, it's still very hard to understand or to really taste the difference between an Undercrown and a Liga.
Okay.
Even the new Herrera Maduro, you know, they're all Maduros. They're all really good cigars.
Right.
I have to smoke them on a full stomach because I'm still a wimpy, you know, sweet cigar smoker. But all I know is it tastes, for me, it tastes very similar to a Dogma.
Okay.
It tastes very similar to 5 years ago, and it all comes from the original blend, which was that Corona Viva blend.
Right.
In the Undercrown. So it's going to be a little spicier than the regular Undercrown Maduro, but what the exact changes, I'm the wrong person.
Yeah, no, and I think that's ultimately an individual has to smoke the cigar to get the experience that they get.
Exactly.
Because ultimately we
And
get the same thing.
These are very cool little 10 count packs. We have little short little bellicosos.
Right.
So shady 20. I mean, it's going to be very cool. And again, we're very excited. Shady, is behind it. The whole Shady Records is behind it. They're going to be releasing a new record sometime at the second half of the year. So it's like a big thing. So we're excited to be part of it. That they actually chose us to make a cigar for them. Or a cigar worth their name.
Absolutely.
So it's good.
So we're sitting here with Dirty Fabien Ziegler from Drew Estate.
Yeah.
This guy knows all things acid. If you have questions and you're watching on the Facebook live stream, leave a comment, leave a question, and Fabien will be more than happy to answer them. We got about 8 more minutes with him or so get those questions in. We got Brian Burt working the comment section over there. So again, if you are an acid smoker, non-acid smoker, you just want to know something about acid.
That's right.
Again, it's the 20th anniversary of acid. They got the new Acid 20 limited edition.
So it's not limited edition. It's going to be a worldwide release all over the place. Anybody can get it because acid is a cigar for everybody and nobody.
Right.
So there is no restrictions when it comes to acid, as we want as many people to try it. And by the numbers and by the sales, a lot of people have tried them, and a lot of people are smoking them. So yeah, it's that we're proud to say. And that was one of the questions: was if we're going to come up with the celebration, who's going to be able to get them, this and that, whatever. That was nipped in the bud very early. It's like, no, we're going to our roots. Anyone who wanted to try acid way back when and supported us, whether they were big or small, we took them in as part of the family. So it's for everybody.
Right.
Now you were saying something earlier. Is we have a new Fat Bottom Betty.
That's right.
There's the Deadwood brand is doing very, very well. It's Crazy Alice, Sweet Jane, and Fat Bottom Betty, and I want to see lots of thumbs ups for all the people who are smoking Fat Bottom Betties.
I know they're out there.
And Crazy Alice's. Come on, lots of thumbs up, lots of happy faces, all that stuff, and that's that. If you're smoking Fat Bottom Betty, it's a 5x54 Robusto.
This is the new one.
No, the old one.
Okay.
But as you know, in the cigar industry, the #1 selling size is Toro.
Right.
In that blend, we have no Toro.
Okay.
So now we're releasing a Fat Bottom Betty Toro.
Okay.
And so it's going to be a 6x52, your true size. It's going to come in a 10 count box. And my friend Joe Grow over there pays attention. He'll get me the box of Fat Bottom Betty so I can show the world. Oh, I'm supposed to tap my foot. Okay, all right. Well, here's this beautiful box right here, Fat Bottom Betty, with the 10 cigars.
Nice.
It's going to be, Toro size.
Brilliant.
6x52. And those are going to hit the market probably sometime in August also. So that's one of the things that we're working on is all the cigars that we're releasing are going to be hitting the market before fall does. That's what our hope is.
Okay.
We still want people out in the north to have a chance to smoke them outside and whatnot, not in their man caves. So that's why we're trying to get all our cigars out before the fall.
Cool. And I see another box of acid sitting over there, and I think you've got some interesting creations. One that, if I'm not mistaken, involves 2 cigars in a tube.
Yeah, so it's croquetas. So we released croquetas and acid plush at the TAA earlier this year in April, and they're doing very, very well. And that is the purple infusion, which is botanical infusion.
Okay.
And it's more on the Maduros. So we had the extraordinary layer, which was a 6x60, and that was a Brazilian Maduro. So now we did the acid plush, and the acid plush actually has the same Connecticut broadleaf as a Liga 9. So you're going to get that oiliness, you're going to get that subtle, that silky smoothness, along with the infusions, a little bit of sweetness. But the one you're talking about is the acid croquetas.
Right.
So you spent any time in Miami, you know what croquetas are.
Absolutely.
It's those little finger bites, ham and cheese, or ham or chicken or whatnot. Well, they come in a tube, and it's 2 cigars. They're 2.5 by 50, and as we say, it's a cigar for me and a cigar for you.
Right.
Or if you don't have any friends, you're like me, it's a cigar for me and a cigar for me later.
Right.
So it's up to you.
Yeah, when to show, when to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and here, we got the box of plush. Unfortunately, the croquetas, I smoked them at the MIA airport before I got on, so, I don't have any to show. But this is the acid plush right here. It's a box of 24 with the, like I said, the nice Connecticut broadleaf wrapper. So,
Nice.
yeah, that's another cigar for someone who wants to try an acid cigar. That's another one to go to because it's not as sweet as some of the other ones.
Okay.
So
I mean, when you, and I kind of want you to speak for the company on this one. When you guys look back over 20 years of acid,
I have to call my legal department. If
Okay.
Go.
but I mean, 20 years of anything is impressive. 20 years of a cigar that is known to basically every cigar smoker out there is something else. I mean, has the company had the opportunity to kind of sit and really sum that up and put it into perspective, and then looking at the event, obviously the trade show, and then looking forward?
You know, I think I would better answer that question after the trade show.
Okay.
Because things are so hectic going on to the trade show and getting things ready. I mean, we got production working on the cigars, we got marketing working on the marketing campaigns, we got, production making the bands and all that stuff. We got the sales guys all ramped up to go out there and sell it. We got the all your listeners out there, all your followers ready to smoke them, looking for them, treasure hunts. I think after the show, which, knock on wood, I don't see any wood, but knock on wood, we're going to sell a whole bunch of them, and we'll be able to actually sit back and go, 20 years is a long time. I've been with the company for 19.
Right.
So, and I remember way back when, in 2000, when I was still walking around with my box of acid Cuba Cubas, and I thought all cigars were like acid. I didn't know anything else.
Okay.
Because I just got thrown in to the wolves, and trying to go into these cigar stores that at that time, and I mean some still are very, very traditional.
Sure.
To tell them that, hey, I got the newest and greatest cigar, and then you're like, hey, here's my box of acid, and at the time, all the loose tobacco is infused. So when you open the box,
right.
you just get hit with that big smell. Now we cello it, and we don't necessarily infuse this,
Okay.
so the impact isn't as much. But back then, they're just like, oh my God, get these smelly cigars out of here. Little by little, little by little. You know what we saw also is there in every market there's market leaders, right?
Right.
And we hit those guys, and we talk to those guys, and those guys tend to be more on the traditional aspect. So they weren't necessarily real receptive with acid cigars. So what we ended up doing was going around and finding all the secondary stores and the third stores and gas stations, anywhere that would sell cigars. And that was at the end of the cigar boom. You know?
Right.
So everyone had cigars, even though they were selling them or they weren't selling them, or they're
Sure.
trying to get rid of them. But that's where we hit. And what we noticed was through the years, some of these secondary stores became market leaders.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I play one in the cigar industry sometimes. And by no means am I saying, oh, well, the reason why they made it and they became market leaders is because they jumped on the acid bandwagon. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, conceptually, those people had to try something different. They had to grow in other ways. So they were more receptive to non-traditional items. And as the smoking community became a little bit more every year more receptive, and a lot of store owners helped us out by wanting to create new cigar smokers. So it's like, hey, try this. The one thing you're going to do is, from a Drew Estate cigar, the construction is second to none. I mean, pretty much all cigars coming out of Nicaragua, the Dominican, Honduran. I mean, the construction is second to none. But at Drew Estate, it's one of the most important things for us is the draw and the burn. So any cigar you're gonna give out, you're gonna sell, you're not necessarily gonna get that many of them back. And
Okay.
as a store owner, you don't want to necessarily. Of course, they're gonna replace.
Right.
But the less you replace, the more you have to sell, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So those guys understood what we were trying to do, and some of us killed them with kindness, and they felt bad for us, and like,
Right.
oh, we'll give you a chance, and I don't say proof is in the pudding, but 20 years later, we're celebrating. The line is in the sand, and we're like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of people out there. It's actually going to be very cool. I get very happy and a warm feeling in my heart when I go in stores all over the place as I'm doing events, and I see people smoking an acid cigar.
Yeah.
Or I get fathers telling me their sons got them started.
Right.
on cigars with an acid.
Yeah.
Before, it was always fathers getting sons
Sure.
to start, smoking. But there's more and more in the last 5-10 years. There's more sons getting fathers started in the cigar industry, which is cool.
Indeed.
We want lots of people smoking cigars out there and whatnot. And no matter what cigar they start off with, is good, because all manufacturers, we make great cigars right now. And at the end of the day, more cigars burned, more cigars sold, more cigars made, and everyone's happy and whatnot. And we're just, a little piece of the pie that a few of them try out acid somewhere in the middle.
There we go. Well, hey, Dirty Fabien Ziegler, thank you for joining us today, taking some time out.
Well,
congratulations to you and everyone at Drew Estate. 20 years of acid, new acid 20 coming out, new acid plush coming out.
That's right.
Drew Estate Undercrown Shady
20.
New BOTLs coming out. Lots of good stuff from Drew Estate. Thank you so much.
Well,
we really
thank you very
appreciate
much.
taking
It's
the
a
time,
pleasure.
man. Always a pleasure. See you on the
And
floor.
next year,
yes, sir.
We'll celebrate Acid 21
There it is.
when acid becomes
When the
legal.
acid's legal.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that party's going to be like. So, hey, thank you all for joining us. We got Dirty Fabien Ziegler. Nick Perdomo Jr. is coming up next. Don't forget, if you have questions or comments, or you want to know anything about what we're talking about, feel free to jump in the comment section on Facebook. We're on Facebook Live right now. We got Brian Burt sitting over there monitoring questions and comments, and he will get them to me. Big thanks to Joe Grove for being here as well and helping everything. I know there's a lot of guys that work in the cigar industry behind the scenes, and Joe Grove has become one of the top ones, just doing so much stuff to make sure that we have all the information we need and whatnot. And without further ado, he is fresh from the gym. Look at this guy. Nick Perdomo Jr. My friend, how are you, sir?
Good. I apologize for my dress, but
No, hey, I told you, come on over.
building
And Janine is here.
building the booth,
Grab that mic real quick, because we're going to make sure it gets right in front of your face.
building the
There you
booth at the trade show. So I apologize for my my decor here today.
And I think what's great is, like, you are one of the guys I look up to for suits and ties in the business. So seeing you come over in tank top and shorts is fantastic.
Well, yeah,
This is awesome.
I also I love to build the booth. So
Absolutely.
It's camaraderie to be able to work with the guys and build it. So it's a good thing.
Good.
It's a good thing.
Wait, before we get into cigars, I know, the cigar industry and business is about more than just making cigars. So, because Janine is here,
Right.
Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank
30
you.
years.
Absolutely.
Bravo. Congratulations to the both.
Thank
You just had your daughter Natalie get married.
Yes.
Nick got married last year.
Yes.
So, I guess we both weddinged out.
We're weddinged out.
Yeah.
We're blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know weddings take a lot out of people.
They
And that was
sure
like, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So busy family time. And then Nicholas is just now promoted to Director of Sales.
Director of Sales.
Director of Sales.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that, because obviously that's a pretty significant step in the growth of the company.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you've been doing this for 28
28 years.
years now.
Yeah.
What-
Best cigar for you there.
Thank you very much. What does that mean when now you've got your son taking on a leadership role within the company?
Well, it's 4 generations of Perdomos in the premium cigar business. I'm real proud of that, and I'm really proud of my son, because it's not so easy being Nick Perdomo's son. I always told him that I wanted him to blaze his own trail, Patrick. And the thing of it is that I wanted him to walk the walk, and I think I was really tougher on my son than probably anybody, and I really wanted him to walk the walk before he could talk the talk. So with that being said, I was tough on him, but he always really wanted to do this since a real young age, and spent a lot of summers with my dad in Nicaragua,
Right.
and really learned from a lot of the best, whether it be Aristides Garcia, which you met down in Nicaragua,
Absolutely.
or Sarah Gonzalez, or my dad.
Right.
He really got some great tutelage, and he loved it. And I really wanted him to really blaze his trail, like I said, and he really did it. So I'm really proud of him.
When I remember when I was down at the factory with you, I think it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I think he was going into his senior year in college, maybe?
Yes.
And we were talking about that, and just the whole, learning and how much you have to learn, especially if you want to oversee a company.
Sure.
Because, and you're a unique company, and obviously vertically integrated, but you've got this whole operation in Miami, and then you've got this whole operation in Nicaragua, and it's not just making cigars. You're growing, you're running the box factory, you're running all these other aspects of it. So the learning curve for him is probably multiples, if not exponentials, above what it may be for somebody else.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, from weather to seed pelletization to agronomy.
Right.
Because, vertical integration is, it's a much more complex thing, as you can imagine.
And you're doing some different things down there. I mean...
Yeah, whether it be water system, agronomy, environmental, different things that we're doing. He has to learn everything from the ground up, and I think it's really important for him to know, and the way we do things, and he loves it, so I'm really happy about that.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on all that. I mean,
Thank you.
I was looking over some things, and I just started scrolling back to your Facebook, and I was like, man, anniversary, wedding, promotion, everything.
Yeah, we're always running like 200 miles an hour, Janine and I, so we're blessed that we can do it.
Well, and you've got some new cigars to talk about,
Yes.
which we've got IPCPR here opening up on Saturday. And I first also, you talk about building the booth. Yours is one of my favorite booths. Not because it just reminds me of being in an arena with the LED lights and everything, but also, I mean, it's a really well-constructed, well-laid-out booth. So we've got some new things. Tell people what is going to be new in the Perdomo booth this year.
Well, with the FDA, of course, it's really difficult. And I normally don't come out with many new things. And this is the new Estate Selection Vintage. It's the new box-pressed edition. And what's new about this cigar, and I think you were part of it, is you got to see the Natalie farm, which was which is our newest farm. We developed this farm a little over 7 years ago, and what's great about it was, at one time, it was a crater of a volcano in the Esteli Valley, and this particular cigar has the first crops of it. So the secos, which are the light tobaccos, and the ligeros, which are the heavy tobaccos, are part of the filler conception of this particular cigar. So we're real proud of it. It's probably our most stout cigar, Patrick. Really worked these tobaccos. They were a bear to work with, to be quite honest with you. And it's really a project I'm very proud of. 3 different wrappers. You're smoking the sun-grown wrapper, 100% Nicaraguan. The only one that's not is the Connecticut shade that's going to have a Connecticut seed wrapper grown in Ecuador that's produced by our friends, the Perez family. Have been growing tobacco for us for 25 years, wrapper tobacco, but it has our fillers and binders that we grow. Really proud of this. It's good. It's got a slight box press, as you can see. And we're gonna release this to only 250 cigar stores, small production, 1 million cigars. That's it. And people keep asking us, well, who's going to get it? It's the retailers that really are going to be passionate about selling the product. It's kind of like in the old days where the guy came in and he wanted a special box of cigars. And the retailer said, let me show you something you'll really love. And we want to bring those old days back, where the guy wants to show you something that's super special that you'll really love. And it's not about, a free lighter or a free cutter. It's about giving you something that shows you the passions the Perdomo family have, of giving you something that we really love. And this is something that was really a love affair for especially me and my family. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I really trust that you will.
Now, from a technical side, you mentioned this. You said you really have to work the tobaccos and the filler. When you say that, for somebody that is not as well versed in the growing and curing and fermenting process, what does that mean?
Well, these tobaccos, because of the ground contents that we had here, these are farms that nothing ever grew that you got to see, and very heavy mineral laden, lots of rocks that we had to take out. For example, these types of grounds here that were so heavy, the yields were fantastic with weight, but because these grounds are so thick and so porous, these tobaccos, the work that we had to do to ferment and get them to burn took quite a long time. And for example, the ligeros that we had, which are the strong tobaccos, those came from the original crop. These tobaccos were fermented for approximately 7 years from the get-go.
So
they're very old, and it wasn't because of my infinite wisdom.
Reference, what does it mean? A typical?
Yeah, a typical ligero could take anywhere from 36 months to really get it to go. Matter of fact, if you ferment it more, you can actually burn the tobacco.
Right.
So these tobaccos were really like shoe leather, and because of that, they took a long time to ferment. And they're beautiful tobaccos. It was, they were like caramelization, if you could per se, if you saw them. So we call them medio tiempos, which are like the Corona leaves that we use in these. They have a lot of concentration of flavor, starches and sugars and so on. But it was a labor of love. They were really hard to work with because they were like shoe leather. But I think you, the smoker, will be able to see what our labor of love was and why it was worth it to be able to do it.
Did you ever get concerned during the process, or did you have a feeling that it was going to be longer? Or
yeah, I was concerned about it because it was really.
At some point, you just go, we're just going to leave them and keep going and see.
Yeah, because it was a bear to work. It kept building heat, kept building heat, kept building heat, and it wasn't coming down. And the textures were still gummy and tacky, and still gummy and tacky. And sooner or later, they start breaking down, and these tobaccos weren't really breaking down as they should. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a process. It was taking longer than it should.
Right.
And yeah, I was a little concerned about it. We knew that these tobaccos, for example, normally in 1.7 acres, we normally get about 3,500 pounds of tobacco. Nestle, we got about 43 to 4,400 pounds on these particular farms,
wow.
which were like what we call bionic in reality. But so we knew we had some really thick, lush tobacco. Mm-hmm. But we're really happy, and this farm has been just fantastic for us. And the reason we call it Natalie, we name it after my daughter, because when I looked at this with my son and Sylvia, I said, this is such a beautiful farm. I'm going to name it after my daughter. So that's where we came up with the name Natalie on that.
It was fairly new when I was there.
Yeah, you were. It's still a fairly new farm. It's only been grown on for 7 years. Nothing ever grew on it ever in its life. So we've been really, really pleased with the farm, and we're still evolving with the farm. It's a humongous farm. It's approximately 713 acres in total. We've only gone through 411 acres of the farm, so we still have quite a bit to go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, new ESV, estate selection and vintage, 3 wrapper options, a standard 3, the Maduro, the Sun-Grown, the Connecticut. Fuller than is what's in the Perdomo catalog right now.
Yeah, it's our most stout cigar, yes,
Okay.
Patrick. Yeah.
Size-wise, we're going to do the...
Yeah, we're gonna do 5 sizes. We have a Robusto, we have a Toro, we have a Churchill, we have a Torpedo, and we're going to come out with a new tube series that we'll have later on in the portfolio. Okay. 250 stores we're going to carry it in the beginning, and we're working on that right now. We're going to showcase it at the store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know we have a question Iconic Smoker asked, and I think I know the answer to this, but I want to let you answer it. He asked Lanceros.
We're not Lancero makers, and the reason is because I think that just like your mom's spaghetti sauce, you need so much salt, pepper, and garlic.
Sure.
The Ligero leaf, which is a strong leaf, and it's a great question. The reason we don't make Lanceros, and I made them in the 90s, you just can't. You can't use the garlic part, which is the Ligero part in the Lancero. And the truth of the matter is only 0.8% of all the total imports are Lanceros. On top of that, it's not the biggest seller in the world, and that's really not the main reason. The main reason I don't make them is because I think you really cheat the consumer in it. Because the ring gauge is so thin, it's really hard to put the adequate amount of Ligero to be able to make the blend properly. We make a champagne tin that's handmade, that's a 5x38. We actually take a pizza cutter and we actually take strips and we make the Ligero and we put inside. But to make a production of 1 million cigars or above, it would be very hard to consistently put the right amount of Ligero in there, and I think I'm cheating the consumer, and that's why we don't do it, to be quite honest with you.
So we're at a trade show that is obviously geared towards retailers. You have been one of the more proactive manufacturers when it comes to getting in humidors and working retail space. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I want you to touch on that really quickly, and it was one of the things I found most fascinating during the visit, and kind of where that is evolving and where that's at today, and particularly what you're seeing from it, what the retailer sees from it, and then what the consumer's seeing from it.
Well, first of all, I'm blessed that I can be able to do that. I mean, your customer is everything, and I feel so blessed that I can go out there and actually get to meet my consumer. A lot of guys think it's a drag. I certainly don't. I do probably about 200, 250 events every year. It's a blessing for me. Nobody comes up to me and says, I'm going to a funeral, I need a box of cigars from you, Nick. Everybody's happy to see you. It's like I told my wife recently, sometimes I think I have to pinch myself. Everybody's happy to see you. You know, what a blessing that you can come out and see your consumer, and he tells you how your product that you make, he enjoys it. It truly is a blessing. So I love doing these events. The only thing I don't like to do is there's these 3 words that I hate. They're called TSA. Outside of those things, I love to travel and I love seeing our consumers. And it's a blessing, honestly, that I can go out and do these events. And even when you came on the factory tour, I love having consumers come down to Nicaragua because it's so great to be able to hang out and they enjoy your passion, man. It's fantastic. Absolutely. It really is, yeah.
Talking on the retail front, are you doing any other changes to the merchandising aspect and the way that you have try to really get in and work a humidor, both, I mean, not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of the store and the consumer.
Yeah, I think merchandising is super important, not only for our company, which we're total believers in. We've been merchandising stores for several years, but it's also for the benefit of the retailer and also for the consumers. Look, it's not rocket scientists. It works for companies like Kimberly-Clark and Pepsi-Cola and Coca-Cola, and something we continue driving in, and our business has grown exponentially because of it, Patrick.
Right.
Yeah.
So, going back to the trade show a little bit, anything else that people should be on the lookout for from Perdomo this year, or?
We got some accessory lines that we're thinking about coming out with. We have a new lighter that we're coming out with. We have some different type of clothing stuff that we're coming out with. We have some new tin signs that we're coming out with for the retailers and the consumers. You know, we have to tread lightly because of this new regulation with FDA.
Sure.
And we want to follow the law.
Right.
And the reason we want to follow the law is because we don't want to hurt our company, we don't want to hurt our retailers, and we don't want to hurt our consumers.
Absolutely.
So I see a lot of new things coming out that are not grandfathered in. We're not going to tread that way because we don't want to hurt ourselves, our consumers, or our retailers. So we're going to follow the law, and we're going to keep fighting.
Right.
Too. You know, I'm on the board of Cigar Association America. I'm on the board of, I'm still a member of CRA, and I'm going to do everything we can to do the right thing, but I got to follow the law because I got a family and I got a lot of workers that I got to protect too.
Well, and it's like you say, I mean, you're now into the 4th generation, and I'm sure you want that to be there and for a lot longer.
For my kids too, of course.
Yeah.
And I love the industry. I love it just as much today as when I started 28 years ago.
Yeah, and that's, I mean,
absolutely.
back in the old Nick Sticks days. I mean,
Yeah.
There's a great picture that Nicholas has on his Facebook header. I think it's him and your dad at the old box factory.
Yes.
And it's just, it really struck me as, here's this little guy who's now director of sales for the company and taking, not taking over, but starting to inherit some of that family heritage.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my family. Yeah, I really am.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I am. And I'm so glad to be here at Halfwheel. I'm really want to thank you guys for having me.
Well, I'm glad we could make it happen. I know, like I say, it's, you have created such a good following amongst your consumers, and I think obviously it's been going for a long time. When S-Chip came in, that seemed to double down on your commitment to them and to the industry, and I know that's probably got to be getting harder given where everything else is, but you're still one of the guys that's out there really fighting and really contributing to the leadership and contributing to the advancement of let's find something to do about this.
Yeah, I think it's because I built it out of my garage. And I'm very thankful to all our consumers who are so loyal. We really have a loyal following, and I'm very thankful for that. And thank you. I'm very appreciative of it.
Well, Nick, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Patrick.
I know we don't get to see each other nearly enough, once or twice a year. But new Estate Selection Vintage coming out in. These will be on store shelves.
We should have them toward the end of July. They'll be in 250 of the best retailers in the country.
Outstanding. Well, congratulations, and congratulations to you and Janine and the family. I mean, like I say, I can only imagine how hectic of a 3 weeks it's been.
It's been hectic.
Let alone the last 2 years, probably.
We're super happy.
Yeah, and kids are out of college, and now they're on their own, doing their own thing.
Well, now I got a daughter in law school. I told her after all the years of business, she'll be the first lawyer I ever met who hasn't tried to screw me over. So I'm good. I'm good.
And on that note, that calls for another cigar.
Absolutely.
So, Nick, thanks so much for everything. We'll see you on the show floor.
Absolutely.
Nick Perdomo Cigars.
Thank you, guys.
Follow him. Reach out to him on all the socials and whatnot. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
Patrick.
it.
Appreciate it.
So we are down here at Davidoff of Geneva in Las Vegas, right on the Strip. If you are in Las Vegas and you want to come hang out for a little bit, come on down. Love to have you. If you're watching live on Facebook, thanks so much for tuning in there. Brian Burt is over on the computer working on questions and comments, and he will relay them to me. Still got a lot of great schedule coming up. We got Skip Martin here, who's going to be joining us in just a few moments. We got Steve Saka coming up. Thanks, sir. Always nice to walk out the same ladder you walked in with. We have got Dylan Austin is still coming up. Charlie Minato is tidying up. The whole Half-Wheel crew is here. So again, if you are here in Las Vegas and you want to come down, come on, hang out with us, have a cigar, and Skip has an open tab at the bar apparently. So as long as he is on, apparently that is the rule. So with that being said, we all need drinks. So with no further ado, let's get our good friend Skip Martin in here. Nick, thank you so much. And without any further ado,
How you doing, man?
the one and only Mr. Skip Martin.
I've had instructions of which camera to look at and everything.
Have you gotten briefed? And like, have you gotten all the good details?
A little bit.
Like the thumb to pinky finger rule on the mic, and all that stuff.
He said a fist. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the mic.
Well, two things. I didn't come just straight from the gym, and I completely missed the opportunity to wear the nut huggers. So was that awkward, staring at Perdomo's balls the whole time?
No, it was.
Thank you, Brooks.
Thanks, Brooks. Appreciate you, buddy. You see how this works? It's like I'm sitting over here like sucking down Hall's cough drops because I'm trying to keep my voice intact. And we got drinks coming out.
So back to Nick's balls.
Yes, back to Nick Perdomo. It was. No, it's always interesting. And Nick is probably one of the sharpest dressers in the cigar industry. I think we all know that.
Obviously.
And he's like, "Do I have to wear a suit and everything because I'm going to be doing the booth?" And I'm like, "No, just come over. This is casual. We're just chatting, talking about stuff."
Right.
And sure enough, tank top and those are some short
it's hot
shorts.
it's hot on the floor out there.
Oh, that's why do you think we're over here this year?
Yeah, I got people doing it. I can't do it.
And look at this. Brian Burt comes to the rescue with a nice bottle of water.
Boom.
Thank you, sir. It's not whiskey, but it'll do. Thank you. So, you are in Las Vegas.
We got here
Lots of
last
stuff
night.
to talk about. And I got all these questions because I know that you are really shy about sharing opinions and not, not going on rants and whatnot.
Right.
But we'll get to that in a second. We got to talk cigars first. And remember, if you have a question for Skip about anything with RoMa Craft or just life in general, hit us up on the Facebook Live comments. Brian Burt is on the computer and will text them to me. You've got a couple things that have been talked about recently. The one I think that has caught a lot of interest is, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Baca.
Yeah, so Baca is a it's a new cigar that we have coming out this year. We've kind of interpreted a lot of the new cigars we've had over the last couple of years have either been a box press, barber pole, whatever redress version of an existing cigar,
right,
because of the FDA rules.
Sure.
Or it's been something that we've released in Germany.
Okay.
Right. And so we kind of just decided, you know what? Everybody else is coming out with everything. This rule about same quantity, same general blend. We decided that we would do a new line in the Cro-Magnon sizes, all 7 of the core Cro-Magnon sizes. And so it started out as a project actually we were working on for years with Jack Tarano.
Okay.
He had asked us a number of times to do something with him when he was at Duran, and then him and Sam Lucia a couple times when they were working on the black and white. And we just don't have the capacity in our factory to do anything like that.
Sure.
So I guess about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we started working on a specific project with Jack in General to re-release a limited version of the 1916 Cameroon,
Okay.
which is one of my favorite Cameroons. And if there's any kind of tobacco that really, we use a lot of Cameroon binder, which is a derivative of a product of a wrapper that another factory uses, but I've never really had a chance to blend with that tobacco in terms of a wrapper.
Okay.
And so, I had talked to John. I said, or Jack. I said, if there was anything I was really willing to do, it would be work on a Cameroon project, because walking around the warehouse in Santiago with Benji, I just saw these like bales and bales and bales of Cameroon, which is super interesting to me. And it's actually a very, very hard tobacco to work with.
Okay.
And
I asked Nick sort of a similar question, but again, for our viewers and listeners who don't necessarily understand what the term to work a tobacco is.
So
when you say that, what does that mean?
So working tobacco is everything from getting it out of the curing barn to the pilon, getting it to the right fermentation at the right pace and the right kind of getting the size of the bulk and getting the temperatures and how much humidity do you put into it, do you sweat it. The thing about Cameroon is you don't ferment it, so you completely skip that whole process where you can manage a lot of tobacco.
Okay.
It's like you can take broadleaf out of a barn, and there's a lot of things you can do with time and temperature to get it to where you want it to be in terms of texture or sweetness or strength or whatever. Cameroon is just like Ecuador, Connecticut. It comes straight out of the curing barn, and that's it. There's no work beyond that. It's either good or it's not good.
And that is a function of the leaf's thickness.
Yeah, if you put it into a bulk, it would just eat through the leaf. So,
because I mean, living in Phoenix, which is a lot like Las Vegas, hot and dry.
right.
Cameroon is basically unsmokable for 6 months out of the year if you're outside, because it is just, it's a really thin.
A lot of it
fragile
is
leaf.
very thin.
Yeah.
Now, so what we did was, working it, going back to that, also kind of extends to getting it into the factory, rehydrating it in the mojadero, and then getting it onto the table for the roller to actually select the cut.
Okay.
And it's a completely different process than most of the tobaccos that we use. We use an Indonesian binder, which is a similar seed. We've used a little bit of Sumatra in the past, just Ecuador and Sumatra, but and we use a lot of this high quality Indonesian, which is similar in terms of the way you work it. But a buncher working a binder is different than a roller working a wrapper.
Okay.
So how much you humidify it on the table, so that you don't get water spots, where you do the cuts for the different sizes, and actually it's very, very small. So from the time it comes from the mojadero to the time it hits the table, the time it goes onto a cigar, how you age it in the aging room without damaging it, all that is working it, right?
So and you're experimenting with this sort of as you go, learning.
So
as you
we've
go.
been doing that over the last 2 or 3 years
Okay.
with tobacco from Scandinavia.
Okay.
And so that project kind of unraveled when Jack Tarano left Scandinavia. And where we were at on that is, Esteban came from Latin Cigar. And Esteban has a book. I mean, he blended almost every Tarano, Gurkha, CAO, Newman cigar that was made in Latin Cigar from like the mid-90s, right? So a lot of Colombian tobacco, a lot of Peruvian tobacco. So we kind of eliminated all that off the table. But we kept the Cameroon and we kept the Jamastran.
Okay.
So and then we put some Nicaraguan tobacco in there. So part of the challenge was finding Nicaraguan tobacco that would play well into that blend, but then also finding the right quality Jamastran and the right quality wrapper.
Right.
Because the quality of the wrapper that they were giving us to work with from Scandinavia wasn't really. It wasn't.
And just so we're clear, Scandinavian tobacco, not Scandinavia
Scandinavian
region
tobacco,
of the
yeah.
country or the
Right.
world. Yeah.
So
Not growing up there yet. I don't
So
think.
actually, I had Esteban and I talked to Gilberto Oliva, who's one of kind of my mentors in the business. And Gilberto, they work with a lot of African Cameroon, and a lot of these factories. What happens is they have a blend, and in this case, some of the Cameroon comes in different sizes or thicker than what they would use in their core products, right?
Okay.
So that's what we went after. So then we kind of built Baca from Cameroon back to the key cuts of Jamastran, which also was not easy to get because Plasencia has it, but he's using it all. Christian has it, he's using it all. George Rico has it, he's using it all.
Mm-hmm.
So getting that has been also tough too,
Right.
because you're not just asking for, hey, just give me some Seco and Viso. You're asking for something distinctive.
Okay.
So because of all those sourcing limitations, the project really ended up being, hey, every year we're going to source these materials. And we're going to source as much of these materials as we can get, and we're going to make 1 or 2 sizes of this a year in the 7-quart sizes. So this year we're doing the 4x46 and the 4.5x52, which is the 4x52, which is the knuckle dragger
Right.
size, and the pastera size. But
Is there a reason you went with those two?
well, we made all 7 of them just to kind of make sure the blend worked in all 7. But this year, the tobacco that we got, the size of the wrapper actually limited us to the shorter cigars.
Gotcha.
We could have made probably 800, 900 boxes of other sizes, a few of each size, but it seemed better for us to kind of just make like 1,000 or 1,500 of those 2 sizes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for somebody that is a big RoMa Craft fan, has smoked the portfolio, kind of knows where different cigars sit. Where is Baca going to sit for them in terms of profile, strength?
Well, you know, I think
sweetness?
everybody's going to have to kind of define that in their own. Just the nature of the tobacco is it's very long fermented. So even though it still has a lot of body, it's not very high in strength.
Okay.
And then the blend that we made was to try to keep as much of the wrapper as possible. And in the smaller ring gauges, 4652, it was a little easier than in, say, like the 60.
Okay.
Right? But it's very Cameroon heavy
Okay.
in terms of the flavor profile. So if you're a Cameroon person, it's going to be something that's really going to... We tried to use...
And for those not familiar with Cameroon, because they just may not smoke a lot of it, or they may not have it may not have a place in their mind. That is a...
It kind of has a sweet and sour...
Okay.
You know, it's the best way I describe it. But we use a very heavy Cameroon,
Okay.
which would be a light Ecuador Habano.
Okay.
But it's very heavy for Cameroon. So it's a great project. And, you know, again, it goes back to the same thing with Neanderthal. For me, this whole thing has been just journey and learning new tobaccos, right? So finding this new catalog of tobacco, in this case it was Yamasran Filler and Cameroon, which I've always known as a smoker, but then starting to learn all the characteristics of what's out there in terms of flavor, texture, how it works with other tobaccos. In this case, we used a Condega tobacco, which is one of my favorite Nicaraguan tobaccos to use when you're trying to get to a milder, flavorful cigar. That's why Aganorsa uses a lot of it. They have some of the best of it. But it's one of those where you can get a heavy Condega that's very similar to Esteli, or you can get a lighter Condega that's very similar to Jalapa.
Okay.
You know, in general, Jalapa tobacco tastes like Jalapa. Esteli tastes like Esteli.
Sure.
Pueblo Nuevo, which is technically Esteli, but is a different area, tastes a little bit like a lighter version of Esteli, a little more flavorful.
Okay.
Condega, all the farms in Condega, you find a really broad spectrum of flavor profiles from different farms. So even though it's regionally Criollo tobacco it's Habanesis Habano tobacco or Criollo or Corojo from Condega, there's tons of different spectrum of flavors and textures and strengths. So finding the right Condega tobacco to kind of take the place of that Colombian tobacco was really important for me. So it worked out great. I think it's a great cigar. I'm really proud of it. I've been smoking a lot of it. I haven't really seen. We haven't had any made long enough to see kind of how it really does over time.
Okay.
So you know, there is a point where it doesn't taste the way it's supposed to.
Right.
And then it hits this magical. It's kind of like the movie where the wine is all
Right.
cloudy, and they're like, "What the hell?"
Right.
Bottle shock or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes it's like that, and then the next day you smoke, and you're like, "Holy cow, this is amazing."
Right.
So you know, most of the cigars we put out, we say this is how we want it presented when we put it out.
Right.
We'll see when we get to October, November, kind of where the blend is at. But I have no doubt, like at some point, this thing will mature into something really spectacular. Probably from a blending perspective, one of the better accomplishments from a technical.
Nice.
Making a cigar in Nicaragua that's like this is, for me, an accomplishment. Just like Neanderthal was an accomplishment for me. Yeah.
And again, so Baca out on store shelves.
October, November.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to be the red band, so it'll look different than.
Yeah. It's going to be allocated, so it's really going to be probably our best 50, 100 retailers, depending on. It's not going to be a tons of boxes per store. It's a little more expensive, but so it's a little bit different than anything we've done.
Nice. And then I know you mentioned Neanderthal LH is on the radar.
So
a few things about, namely November, and that it may not be in the U.S.
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know where. If it does come out, it may come out like real stealth, and boom and gone. Here's the thing with FDA, man. I have no idea what's going on. It's just I got to run my business,
right?
And so, we've worked really hard to stay within the rules and do all the things. We've spent close to $100,000, but at the end of the day, man, it's like I can't be shackled to the starting gate while everybody else out there is making cigars for the market. So
Sure.
it may come out in Europe, but it's kind of like Blockhead or those kinds of cigars.
Right.
It's really just an annual limited of something we make, and we'll figure out how to get to the people who want it.
And the big selling point on LH, as I read it, was that it's the strongest of the Neanderthal.
Yeah, for
offerings.
for two reasons. One, we use more of the Green River Sucker 1 in the blend. Just for the mass, the
Right, 'cause it's a
percentages of the
56.
blend. It's a 56.
Right.
But also because the box press is a little bit underfilled.
Okay.
So it has a little bit of a more open draw.
Okay.
And so that extra airflow really just feeds into the strength of the. It's a strong. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Lord Humongous, Warrior of the Wasteland.
That says it all. So I know we've got a question. If you're watching on Facebook and you want to get a question into Skip Martin, ask it in the comments side, and we'll get that in. Brian Burt's monitoring questions. Brett Valid wanted to know if you could get all the correct tobacco you wanted and could expand your operation, would you make more cigars, or are you set on making your current amount?
So we have enough of most tobaccos to make probably 1.5, 2 million cigars a year. You know, part of the thing is when you come out with a new blend, unless you go into it knowing it's going to be limited. Like when we came out with Neanderthal, it took us 2 years to accumulate the tobacco to launch that into the marketplace, to know that we could make it every year consistently. And even like you see this year with Cro-Magnon, earlier in the year, we were waiting on a couple of different tobaccos. So we made all 230,000 of our Cro-Magnons in the first quarter.
Okay.
Because we usually make a little bit of everything, but sometimes we're waiting on the Arapiraca, sometimes we're waiting on the tobacco. So it just so happened in the first quarter, all our Cro-Magnon production was done. And when we moved it to Austin, it all sold. So we're done for the year for Cro-Magnon.
Okay.
You know, it's out on the stores. When it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
And then in, say, last year's tobacco that is fermenting will be ready in, say, October, November. Those cigars will start kind of being ready, or September, those cigars will start being ready in January, February, right?
Okay.
So that's really why Baca and these other things came in, is because, you know, this year we were killing it on Cro-Magnon, on Neanderthal, because we have tons of our allocation for we could make twice as many Neanderthals of the San Andreas, the thick. This year there happens to be just a lot of the thick tobacco. Us, Hoy de Nicaragua, and Nick split the Mexican, and then I think Steve's now getting a little bit of it. But
Okay.
we get all the high priming stuff from Nica Prosignica. So the answer to the question is, we were in the process of getting a new factory so that we could move up to about 1.5 million, 2 million cigars, 18, 20 pairs from our current 12. We've been at 12 for 4 years. We've made about 1 million cigars a year. We have way more demand in Europe than we can handle. We turn down people all the time. So we could absolutely handle the 1.5, 2 million, especially with Whiskey Rebellion and other stuff coming in.
Right.
And we've really figured out the dials on all of our derivatives, like Arapiraca wrapper turns into binder, goes into Guaymaro, and the Cro-Magnon binder turns into binder for the Neanderthal. So we've figured out all those different things, right?
Okay.
So it's not really an issue of finding the tobacco. There is a big supply issue going on in Estley with tobacco, but you know, if you have the money and you're always out there kind of looking, you always can buy opportunistically.
Okay.
It's really finding exactly what you're looking for, right?
Right.
So you know, we could do more, but really the situation in Nicaragua right now is the reason why we haven't started the new factory.
Gotcha.
So a couple more things before we finish coming out this year. We got the Rothschild coming out in Guaymaro, and we've got the War Bear, the Watchstick from Paustania. Those
Right.
are both, that's Esteban's cigar. That's a great little Rothschild. And then the War Bear is a cool limited edition from those guys. And then later in this year in Intertobac, we have actually our first limited of the Wonderlust, which is the Fiorella blend coming
Right.
out. It's a Grand Corona, and that's coming out from Soleil Delay at Intertobac.
And will that be banded as Wonderlust, or will it be banded
Yeah,
as Fiorella?
the primary band, the secondary band is the Fiorella band.
Okay.
Instead of the GPS coordinates that's on the other ones.
Okay.
And then it still has the outside Wonderlust band.
Okay.
The ones that I made originally,
Right.
The 10,000 cigars that'll take me forever to get through. Those all have.
I'm sure there's nobody who wants to help you with that project.
Those
by
have
way.
the original Fiorella band.
Right.
So for this
Same,
one,
is that the same cigar?
it's exactly the same
Okay.
cigar. It's just a different production.
Okay.
It is a little bit of a different blend than the original, the Wonderlust blend. It has a little bit more of different kind of tobaccos.
Okay.
So it's a great cigar.
So I know Sam Lopez, and this kind of tags on to what you were just talking about, wanted to know, does this mean the European cigars will be available to the U.S. now? And I think that's something that you've probably had to answer 150 times, every time you go to an event.
Well, every cigar we sell in Europe is available to consumers in the U.S. They just have to buy it from Germany.
Right.
And the way Sully Delay has it set up, it's almost like buying it from any online store. And he's got a very good reputation. He's very consistent with shipping. Sometimes he has sketchiness with his merchant provider, but I think he's kind of figured that out. But, look, all these cigars exist. So at some point, if the FDA thing opens up, we'll have Wonderlust in the U.S. We'll have, we have 3 or 4 other kind of blend projects that we've been working on. I've been working a lot on using kind of what we call ditch tobacco, this really, really strong kind of wild tobacco, and I've been accumulating that. I've been trying it in different things, but it's really hard to blend with.
Sure.
And you can't get it. You can't cultivate it.
It's not farmed.
It just comes when
Right.
you can get it, right? Like people have it growing in their house yard or
Right.
whatever. You can get it from them, but so we're accumulating that stuff for maybe a future project, and there's not a lot of different wrappers. There's a lot of wrappers out there, but I think we work with pretty much everything that I want. What I don't want to do is I don't want to keep releasing a different blend every year.
Right.
We had Cro-Magnon in 2010. We had Intemperance BA and EC in 2011. We did or Aquitaine in 2011. Right. We did Intemperance EC and BC in 2012. BA in 2012. And then 2014 we did Neanderthal, and then 2016 we did a Whiskey Rebellion and Wonderlust, and we still sell every bit as much as we've ever sold of
Right.
every single size. So for us, it's not about coming out with new things all the time. It's about just keeping those things consistent.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I look forward to trying Baca. I think it's going to be a fantastic cigar. I'm a big Cameroon fan, so I'm really intrigued to see what you guys do with it. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining us. I know it's a busy time of the year for you, but a lot of people love to hear from you. And I know we have a few more questions that we couldn't quite hit, but follow Skip. He's on Facebook, Instagram. He's all over the place, and very good about getting back to comments, which I've always loved. So.
I don't really sleep, so.
Well, I'm sure this time of year it's probably even less than that.
Right.
So, hey, everyone, thanks so much for Skip Martin stopping
Thanks,
by. Again, Baca will be out in store shelves later this year. Keep an eye out for it. It's the Red Band. And with that, thank you again, sir. Always a pleasure.
So, real quick, Baca has nothing to do with Saka.
It's not like a tribute cigar?
No.
Because that really was a perfect
It would be a
segue.
great tribute band.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you just kind of draw a straight line through the B, and there you go.
If it goes over really well, I have no
Yeah.
doubt he'll take some credit for it.
Well, obviously.
But-
Skip
All right,
Martin, thanks so
guys.
much, man. All the best. So again, thanks so much for tuning in. We're Halfwheel's big live Facebook show coming to you from the Davidoff of Geneva since 1911. I don't even know what camera I'm on. Probably that one, maybe. Sure. Coming to you from the Davidoff of Geneva since 1911 store on the Las Vegas Strip. So if you're in Las Vegas and you got nothing to do, come on over. We'll be here for about another hour or so. We've got Dylan Austin coming up, which Charlie will be talking to. But before we get to Dylan, we have got a man who is certainly has no shortage of opinions on all things cigar related, and has become has been an absolute staple of the industry for some time. And boy, you're right, they are twins, aren't they? Like I'm looking at him and Brooks. My God, they are twins. So with that being said, let's welcome in Mr. Steve Saka from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Big round of applause for Steve Saka.
See if I don't knock over a camera.
Wouldn't be the first one today, don't worry. So we're going to have you sit right there and swing that microphone over in front of you. And again, if you're watching live on Facebook, make sure to hit up questions in the comment section. Brian Burt's watching the comment section. He'll text me any questions or comments that you have for Steve. So Steve, man, welcome. How's
Thank you.
everything?
I'm still alive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we got lots to get to and not enough time, certainly. So new cigars first and foremost. And I think the one that has caught my attention and has caught the attention of a few people that I've seen on the comment section is Sobremesa Brulee.
You know, it's weird that one's keep catching people's attention because I think it's probably one of the least exciting cigars I've ever made.
And that's the thing is I don't think it's about necessarily that. It's that it seems like a cigar that is off your beaten path.
Oh, it's way out of my normal wheelhouse.
And I had somebody leave a comment the other day who said, like, I'm not sure about this. Is Steve even going to smoke them? And I went, who cares? Like,
well,
I mean,
no, but honestly,
it's a good question.
But it is relevant to me because, as a general rule of thumb, I only make things that I would personally smoke and buy. Mm-hmm. So yes, and I have actually been smoking quite a few of them, and I've actually been surprised at how much I've been enjoying them because, you know, I've been on such a steady diet of full-bodied cigars for probably the last 15 plus 20 years.
Sure.
So it really is a departure for me, but I'm also not delusional. I think like the guys that follow me are going to try it. Mm-hmm. I'm finding it very hard to think that they're going to become Sobremesa Brulee box buyers. It's really more for, listen, I'm at an event. A guy comes up, says, hey, I like a mild cigar.
Right.
And I basically say, hey, I got absolutely nothing to give you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let me show you these 5 or 6 other brands.
Sure.
So it's kind of a hole in the portfolio in a very big way.
Right.
That I don't have a Connecticut shade, mild style cigar. And, you know, and the thing is, so I went back and I started smoking a lot of the old ones. And I don't know whether it's my palate or they've changed, but they just don't seem as rich as they used to be.
Well, and that was an interesting point that you made when we first started talking about the cigar, and then more recently you've kind of repeated it. I think you repeated it in a comment, which is that the 20-year-olds, or the Connecticut's that have been around for 20 years, those milder cigars, you said that at some point they turned grassy and...
I just find them thin and wispy, but I don't know that that's the cigar. That's my perception of the cigar today.
Okay.
So what I have in my head is I have a memory of when I used to smoke those cigars.
What is that
Connecticut
cigar?
shade, mild. Cigars like Macanudo.
Okay.
Cigars like Romeo and Julieta. Cigars like Ashton Classic.
Okay.
Davidoff White Label. You know, there's a whole bunch of different cigars. And I just remember them being a little more lush, a little more creamy. You know, they were still mild cigars. And look, I say this is a mild cigar, but that's me saying it's a mild cigar.
Sure.
So,
well, because it's Sobremesa with...
right, it's a Sobremesa blend. I've dropped out the Pennsylvania seed leaf Ligero.
Right.
I've increased the Seco that we get grown for us in the Condega Valley, and it's a change to the wrapper to Ecuador, Connecticut. But at its core, it's still the Sobremesa blend.
Right.
It's just tempered down, and then with the wrapper change, it helps soften it up a touch more. I mean, you know me. Very rarely do I go out and say, this is one of the best cigars ever.
Sure.
Last year was probably the first time since the company started that I kind of put my flag in the stand and said, Sin Compromiso is really an exceptional cigar. Look, if I'm making a cigar, I'm putting it in a box, I think it's great, I think it's fabulous, I think it's exceptional.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't know where it fits. And, you know, and I'm in a market where most of the new Connecticut's tend to be very spicy and strong.
Well,
that's
sure.
kind of been the trend, not your grandfather's Connecticut.
Absolutely.
To me, that's kind of an oxymoron. I don't understand the concept. Yeah, as a novelty, yes, but if I'm a guy that smokes stronger, spicy cigars, I don't see myself smoking Connecticut Shade except as a novelty smoke. I think I'm going to find myself gravitating back to Habano wrappers and
Sure.
that not. And so the guys that smoke mild Connecticut Shade, I mean, they are Ashton guys. You know what I mean? They are Romeo guys. They are Monte Cristo guys. They are Macanudo guys. They're like the hardest consumer to get.
Right.
I mean, they're locked into their brands.
Sure.
So for me to make something, I don't know commercially whether there's even really a place for it. But I do know that when I'm doing an event and a consumer comes up and says, yeah, I really smoke mild cigars, which is most consumers still.
Absolutely.
It's more than 50% of the market.
Right.
at least I have something that I could feel comfortable saying, hey, I think you'll like this.
Right.
Whereas right now I hand him a Sober Mesa Americano. I said, you know what? I think you'll like this, but
yeah,
it might
you're doing
still
it-
be a little bit too strong for you.
Yeah, you're doing
You
it a
know
little
what I mean?
guardedly, yeah.
Yeah, because I just know it's not, it's not for everybody. So it's going to be interesting. You know how the trade show works.
Sure.
We're going to sell a lot of it. I know we're going to sell, we're probably going to sell out. We're probably going to sell more than I produce. The question to me is, where will it be 3 years from now?
Right.
Initial sales don't mean anything, but I am interested. And look, and I'll admit I cheated a little bit on this one. I didn't make any geek sizes to start with. I made all very consumer friendly sizes for the guys that smoke those style of cigars.
Right.
I mean,
A nice good look at these. So, I mean, they are definitely lighter than Sober Mesa.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I'm intrigued with, not just on the blend side, you used the word brulee.
Yes.
Which, in my mind, brings something very crystal clear to my palate.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
mean-
curious about that.
yeah, I mean, look, it's always risky when you come up with a name like that, but I mean, look, it is. It's got a hint of sweetness more than a Sober Mesa, particularly on the initial palate and on the light. It's got a kind of, it takes those coffee notes that you have in Sober Mesa and it tones them down to more of a caramel kind of level.
Okay.
So it kind of softens that out a little bit. So I think the Brulee moniker is a good moniker for the brand. I think it's a very apt description. But again, that's me in my bubble.
Sure.
Ultimately, the consumers that buy are going to make the judgment as to whether I was successful or unsuccessful.
Right. So beyond Sober Mesa Brulee, we also
Right.
have a new. It's not new. I mean, it's a build off of the Firecracker.
In the post FDA world, is anything new?
I know. I
You
feel
gotta be
like-
so. You always wonder. Do you have to be so careful with your words? Like, if I say the word "new" once, is that going to be
I know,
used in a
it's-
deposition someday?
I do fear that some days. But we have Mi Querida Tricky Traca.
Yeah, we have Tricky Traca,
which is it builds off of the Firecracker.
right.
And
What I was unaware of when I did the Firecracker project for Dave is I was unaware that I was just supposed to take an existing blend and make a different size, and that was what it was.
okay,
I took it from a perspective of, oh, okay, so he wanted me to make a Mi Querida Firecracker. If it's called, I'm a big believer that the names have to match the product because they set an expectation level.
Sure.
So if I buy a product called Firecracker, I expect it to be strong. I
Sure.
expect it to be potent. I expect it to be powerful.
Sure.
So I think I'm very disappointed when I buy. Look, I remember like Andalusian Bull, fine cigar. I smoked it before it got #1 in Cigar Aficionado. Great cigar, but I went into it thinking it was going to be much stronger because it was called Andalusian Bull.
Right.
I'm thinking Lido Gomez, I'm thinking Double Lajero, I'm thinking chisels, I'm seeing this big bold shape, it's called Andalusian Bull, there's going to be a kick to the head. What did it turn out to be? It turned out to be a medium-bodied, smooth, really nice cigar.
Right.
You know what I mean? The name didn't match to me what the cigar was.
Okay.
So when I did Firecracker for Dave, I amped the blend up. I took the Mi Querida blend and I tweaked it to give it a bit more zip. My problem with the Firecracker is I really enjoyed it, but it was 3.5 by 50.
Right.
So I'm into it, and then it's like already over. It felt kind of like, where's the rest?
Right.
So I really wanted to make it in a larger size, but obviously I own the blend. Dave owns the name Firecracker. I talked to him about it, and I said, hey, I don't want to use the name Firecracker,
Right.
but I would like to use the blend and make larger sizes.
Sure.
And I could have done that without asking him.
Right.
But there's no reason to not ask. It's just polite.
Right.
And he said, no problem. So I ended up going with the moniker Tricky Traca, because Tricky Traca is a slang term in Nicaragua for these firecrackers they set off during celebrations. And it's just a more potent, heavier, denser, earthier version of Mi Querida. And some people are going to think it's way better than the traditional Mi Querida.
Sure.
And other people are going to say, wow, I like the original Mi Querida blend better.
Right.
Because it's really just a question of what you look for in a cigar.
Right.
The guys that smoke on the really heavy end of the spectrum, I think they're going to like Tricky Traca a bit better. Personally, me, Tricky Traca is an occasional cigar where for me, I can smoke 8 or 9 Mi Queridas back to back and be very happy.
Okay.
You
So
know.
it comes in the similar boxes to the Mi
Yes.
Querida, red and gold bands as opposed
Yes.
to
Blue.
kind of a navy and gold.
Right.
Size-wise, I know we've got two sizes. This is the 552, which is
Right. We're only doing two sizes: 5x52 and 6x48. I mean, look. One of the things that I have to think about at this stage is I really don't need more brands.
Okay.
I think I have a very nice portfolio. I haven't had any dogs in it. Everything that we have is increasing in sales. So, if I keep coming out with new stuff, I'm kind of walking on myself.
Well, that was my next question, is because you've been operating Dunbarton for 3 years now?
4.
4, okay. And in that time, you've built a pretty solid portfolio, and I think Brulee probably was the one piece that you could argue was missing.
Brulee was missing.
4 years in, are you satisfied, happy?
Never satisfied, never happy. That's not my nature.
But I mean, with what your offerings are.
Look, the cigars, listen, you had Skip on before me.
Right.
Nick was on before him. If you asked them, do you think your cigars are the best in the world? Each one of them would have answered, absolutely, yes, my cigars are the absolute best in the world.
You'd hope they would, because I saw your Facebook post about that.
You genuinely feel that way. I feel like the cigars that I have made are exceptional. I think they're world class. I think within the mix, they're all distinctly different. They're all unique. And I think that there's something that most people can latch onto, with the exception of me not having something in that mild Connecticut. So that was definitely a hole. I don't know that I can honestly make any better cigars than I've currently made.
Okay.
I mean, I put everything into all of them. I think at this point for me, part of it is, okay, now how do I get into more retail shops?
Sure.
How do I do a better job supporting the customers I have?
Right.
I mean, year to date, we're up 126% before we go into the trade show. I mean, it's just crazy. And the thing about it is, we don't have anything that's like uber hot. Just everything we have is selling and increasing, and the turns are growing. Maybe Sin Compromiso could be put in an uber hot, but not even there, I don't think. It's just everything is just selling and turning, and more people are learning about our products.
Right.
More consumers that have no clue who Steve Saka is, don't care who Steve Saka is, will never care who Steve Saka is. They're picking up their very first Sobremesa out of a box, and they're trying it for the very first time. They're like, whoa, what is this? This is pretty good. It takes 3, 4, 5 years for the average consumer to finally reach into the box. Yeah, the geek guys, the into cigar guys, the guys that read half-wheel, they're going to try this stuff right away. We already know that.
Right.
Okay? But the average guy, it'll be 4 years before he tries a Tricky Troca, I bet you.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes that long. It takes about 3 years on the shelf to get the typical guy to just reach into the box. And we're in a market that lives and dies on so many new items. And look, you're part of the problem because you're media, and media likes to talk about what's new because that's what your readers want to read about.
No,
you know what I mean? So
it's
just the way it is, and I'm part of the problem because I make stuff that's new.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I know you're going to talk about it, and I know that a certain group of consumers are always going to buy it.
Right.
And retailers buy what's new because new is always easier to sell than what's old.
Sure.
But the reality is, I love all the cigars I've made. But I don't necessarily believe that Sobremesa is a lesser cigar than Sin Compromiso. I mean, Sin Compromiso is my flagship brand, and it costs more because it costs me more to make. But as far as a cigar and a cigar smoking experience, it's of equal caliber. I mean, I only have one product that I think is below the other product, and that's the Umbagog brand.
Right.
And I've always positioned it as that because it uses the wrapper that doesn't make the grade for Mi Querida. But it's not a Segundo. It's made by the same pairs that make Mi Querida.
Right.
It's a long fill Primera. It just ends up having a capa that isn't as aesthetically pleasing, which oddly enough, sometimes the ugly ones have a little more flavor. It's kind of like, the ugly chick in bed, that extra bit of effort, right? I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. So, I mean, I'm really happy with where the portfolio is.
Right.
I think what's more important to me now is getting more consumers to try it and experience, because I see it every day. I see it in my own social media. I've become very, very popular over the last year. And that's because a lot of just normal consumers who don't follow all the trends and all the inside baseball are now just discovering the brands.
Yeah. So I got two things I got to get to really quick.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, because Charlie's in my ear. All right, let's do like speed round real quick.
You know what? I screwed up. I was supposed to look at that camera the whole time.
That's okay.
And I didn't do it. I'm a bad person.
All right, so we got to do speed round stuff here.
Speed round. Look at the camera this time, though.
Are you going to stop at Brûlée for mild cigars?
No.
Yes. Okay. How will Brûlée compare to the? It says Secreto Dunbarton.
Dunbarton is a very peculiar cigar. Dunbarton is a cigar that I blended to. It's a very good cigar, but it's just a very good cigar until you retrohale it.
All right.
When you retrohale it, it's an exceptional cigar. So Dunbarton is a weird cigar.
Tony Morales wants to know when you're coming to DFW so you can have more barbecue brisket.
I've been to DFW like twice every year for the last 2 years.
And last thing, I know there's a challenge that exists between you and Abe and
Yes.
Nimish Desai and Abe DeBobna from Smoke Inn.
Right, you need to lose 15% of your body weight before the trade show.
And
I did, just barely, by about 3 pounds.
And on that, congratulations.
Thank you very
Steve
much.
Saka, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you on the show floor. Congratulations on the new lines. Mi Querida Tricky Traca coming out this year. Sober Mesa Brûlée coming out this year, both from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. We'll see you on the show floor. Follow this guy on social media. He's got lots to say.
Thanks, man.
Always a pleasure,
Bye.
Steve. So once again, thanks for tuning in. Facebook Live, the big live show coming to you from the Davidoff of Geneva since 1911 store on the Las Vegas Strip. I'm Patrick Lagreid. Charlie Minato is going to jump in here as we've got, I believe, our last interview coming up in just a moment. And I see that handsome gentleman over in the corner there. Remember, if you do have questions, we are taking them. So, Charlie, you ready to jump in here? So I will turn this back over to Charlie real quick, and yeah, we'll just do that. So, absolutely. So, here comes Charlie. You want me to introduce? Nope. All right.
That's the nice thing about the halfwheel guys. Not like the coop guys or the developing tiles guys that will literally let you talk for 4 freaking hours.
Saka, those microphones will pick you up. Talking shit about it. What's going on here? You want to smoke some competitor product? Competitor product? All right, let me. If you want to move. Hey guys, we're going to get rearranged here, and then we'll start with Dylan.
Because we have a gift card that's like 8 years old.
You good? Where did my headphones go?
Is that good?
You know, it's up
Yeah.
to you.
No need to explain.
I'm gonna keep tilting this thing back.
This is all live, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, it's great content, right?
Nice.
Yeah. That's it.
Huh?
All right. This has been fun. Hopefully Brian Burt's done something to make this more entertaining.
This thing just
Yeah,
fell.
you got to get that. Okay, so tilt that up and then twist that. There you go.
Should be good now.
All right, hopefully we're still live. Brian's going to, I don't know if Brian's going to do anything. Apparently not. All right, so Dylan Austin,
What's happening?
have you got a new title since we last spoke?
I had a lot of titles. But
All right,
yeah.
so you
I've
are-
gotten the ultimate one in the U.S. now.
President of Americas?
President of the
Is
Americas.
that really the ultimate title, though? Isn't like warehouse
I don't know of
manager?
any other ones.
Warehouse manager, wouldn't that be you wouldn't have to be here.
That's true.
Yeah, you could be at home. All right, so Dylan, we've known each other for a while. I once wrote an article that said you got fired. I think that was our first introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, many years ago. You did not get fired, in fact.
I did not
You're
get
still
fired.
here.
I am.
You're still here. Fun times. Much different world. So you're now overseeing all of Davidoff, all the brands in the U.S., sales, marketing, the full...
Legal,
thing.
HR,
Yeah.
operations, everything.
And that is not how you started. Right?
That is not how I started.
All right, so why don't we walk through that? Because I think even most of the peers, like I doubt that even the people here are really familiar with it. So you started with Camacho pre-Davidoff, so the
I did.
Caribe Imports days. What year was that?
That was 2005. It was June of 2005, so I just celebrated my 14th year in the business.
All right.
Yeah.
And so you were
Crazy to think that.
you were brought in to work on a project, right? Like a specific project or marketing
No,
in
you know
general?
what? It was interesting because I had just finished, a number of years of consulting work, working with Florida Department of Transportation.
Fun stuff.
Fun stuff on public information. What else was I doing? I was working with a company called The Mac, which was multi-channel advertising for Latin America for the Disney Channel. What other clients was I doing? I was working with a plus-size ladies clothing line.
How'd that go?
Not too good.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, basically a group of my friends and me, we started a consulting business and worked hard for a couple of years, and honestly, burnt myself out working, probably 80 hours a week, and then took a break for about a year. And then one day I got a phone call from somebody that I knew somebody else that was looking for somebody, to come in and to be a marketing assistant. And to be honest, I was tired of sitting around for a year and decided, all right, why not? Let's give this a shot.
And so that was at Caribe. So Camacho, when the Euro still owned it.
And that's important too, because I got hired and it was Caribe imported cigars. It wasn't even Camacho yet. Yeah.
And Camacho was their main brand, obviously.
Right.
But they had others. And you were there. It was a relatively small operation in Miami, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, small family company. Obviously, Christian Iroa, operated the company out of Miami with his father working in Honduras in the fields. There was, I think maybe about 20 people in the building total.
And so you get there in 2005, and then we see some relatively innovative things from Camacho pretty quickly. There was the Forum, Black Band Project.
Yep.
There was the Facebook marketing. What was that?
We rebranded in 2007, so that actually was one of the first things that I worked on. At that time we had Baccarat, which was growing, and we had Sal Fontana still around. A lot of the legacy brands that that Sal had brought into Caribe. National brand, Baccarat, La Fontana, those are really what we're seeing growth. And Camacho was kind of in an interesting spot because they had just launched the Coilar, but had been stagnant for a couple of years. And, the Coilar helped lift, but I don't think it lifted enough. So we realized, we have to do something, and things were starting to change. Back then, CAO was kind of, the more prominent marketing company within the business. So, these guys were setting a lot of the trend and direction for the, for the industry in terms of packaging and whatnot. And we said, listen, we got to revitalize the brand, and that's when we, repackaged Camacho in 2007. It was huge. I mean, we had like 70% growth year on year. So.
And so then Camacho gets sold.
08, the year after. Yeah. 08, the year after.
But I think there's been different ways companies have been sold, and I imagine this is the case with every business, or acquired, I guess is a better way to put it. So you had the situation with Camacho where Davidoff bought it, the Swiss company bought it, but Camacho operated essentially independently for a couple years. Christian was still there.
Yeah.
The booths were separate.
Booths were separate, for a number of years. Up until
Salesforce was separate.
Salesforce was separate.
You guys had a Miami office. Davidoff was in Connecticut at the time.
Davidoff was in Connecticut, and Cusano had gotten purchased the year after, so 2009. So all three operations were separate up until 2011. So March 2011, January 2011 is when they merged the three companies. Three ERPs now becoming one. That was fun.
Well.
That was fun. And then the three operations coming together in Tampa. And so I moved up about 3 months later in March of 2011.
And so then you took over running it. Well, so we should back up a little bit. So you were Room 101 comes into the fold
2009,
with Camacho, but doesn't, for all intents and purposes, really doesn't show up in the market until the Davidoff.
About 2010, about a year later.
And then you are one of two people in charge of U.S.-based marketing for Davidoff at the time. You've got Rich, who's no longer there, obviously, who had Davidoff Avo
Xeno Platinum
as well.
Yeah.
And then DuPont eventually comes into the fold later on. And then you have essentially the rest of the portfolio.
Yeah, essentially I had Camacho on the balance of the Honduran portfolio, so Baccarat and all the brands that I just mentioned, kind of the legacy brands, the national brand and whatnot.
And then you basically start working on another rebrand.
Sorry?
You basically start working on another rebrand almost immediately after Tampa.
On another rebrand. That was, again, you just kind of see the cycles of where the brands are going. And, in 2012 we started to really kind of hone in on the position, of Camacho, just knowing that we had so many brands within the portfolio. Davidoff kind of owns its space. Avo, to a degree, owned its space. But Camacho at that point kind of needed to have its own identity, and we went to work on that for 2 years. Basically from the time I got to Pinellas Park, and then really started to carve the position in 2012, and then relaunched in 13.
And so one thing, I don't think we've ever really discussed this, but it was one of the more interesting rebrands because you guys redid everything, top to bottom, left, right, etc. But you also, and I don't think anyone's really replicated this, your staff basically spent a month in Dallas doing events multiple events on a Wednesday at multiple retailers, had a big, massive event at the end of it. Why, and you were in our backyard doing all these events, and we were like, oh, what's going on here? Why Dallas of all? It's not it's a big market, but it's not a gigantic market for cigars.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at some data, and to be honest, Dallas looked like, just from an opportunity perspective, just from what we were able to see, from a pure number standpoint, looked like a good city to do it in. And then, to be honest, I mean, if you consider the positioning of the brand, it also felt like the right place. Texas is big and bold, we know that. I mean, you live there.
Yeah.
You're not so big and bold.
No, but it is what it is.
But it was just, I think we hit it on the head. I mean, we had a solid retail base there where we could activate and really build the swell. And then when we started looking at potential places to throw this really big, massive relaunch event, we found a really great space which you joined us at. So,
and why this is going to push the limits, I think, to our general readership, but in the marketing world, we use the term activation. That describes when a brand wants to launch a project. There's a series of emotions that you go through, but generally, if you say activation in most marketing spheres, that usually talks about large brands with large, multi-level, different mediums to launch some sort of campaign or product. That the Camacho relaunch in Dallas was a true activation.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But more or less, no one's really done. Even Davidoff hasn't really done an activation on that level since then.
No, I mean that
or
was
anyone.
Yeah, I mean that was. I mean it was a big undertaking. I mean, luckily we had a marketing group that we work with that had experience with that. I mean, the folks that we work with developed the Guinness Believer program, which is a phenomenal program of activating consumers. And we knew we needed to make a splash. I mean, we had all of these kind of smaller events in and around for that month, and then kind of the final send-off, having this big event where you imagine the content that came out of that. I think it really brought the brand to life. I mean, we had some great guests. If you remember, we introed it. We had Oliver Peck, who was on a tattoo show at that point in time. We had Dicka and Weiss and all of these guys. And
Michael Irvin showed up.
Huh?
Michael Irvin showed up in the back room.
Michael Irvin showed up. That was interesting.
Yeah. That was a fun time. Him and Dicka talking.
That was a fun night.
Yeah. It's a long night. But why? Obviously, cost is the biggest thing here. But why? It's interesting to me that we haven't seen anyone try to replicate that, even on a smaller scale of maybe 2 weeks, and then we're going to start in a region. Because Camacho was in Dallas, new Camacho was in Dallas, but everywhere else in the country, it was as if Camacho hadn't changed until the trade show. I mean, Dallas had all the new stuff, and no one else had any of it.
Yeah, we definitely. I mean, we wanted to test it, and the other piece of it too is, if you build something like that, right, and you have people seeing what's happening, you're going to build a demand for it. And that was exactly what we did in Dallas. Was we wanted to make a lot of noise. We wanted everybody in the country to sit there and say, we want that as well. And that's ultimately what happened. I mean, we went on a large scale event tour after that. And that ultimately led to our road shows, which lasted for about 3 years. So, we took that and kind of built it up to this moving, rolling show.
Was that planned?
That was planned
from the start.
Planned from the start. Yep, absolutely.
All right, so that's Camacho. A lot of things happened since then. ABA, NBA. There's been a lot of successes with Camacho, with Room 101, and for the time that it was there. Following that, you get the Avo portfolio. And Avo had relaunched on a smaller scale, but had done the full. They cut the portfolio in half SKU-wise, so they got rid of a lot of brands. They rebranded, new packaging. And it didn't have the same sort of reaction as Camacho, obviously.
It didn't have the same reaction because of the way that the way that it was done. With Camacho, we had a lot of inventory that we had to turn over.
Yeah.
Right. So we had stuff that old packaging material in the factory, packaging material, and finished goods in the U.S. And we decided to put them in one outlet. where Avo, when that was done, it was put out to many outlets, which held Avo back, from coming out of the gates as strong.
Didn't have like a hard reset.
It did not have a hard reset. It was more of a trickle, and I think that was probably one of the biggest mistakes. But I mean, to be honest, Avo had its challenges as well. I mean, for probably 2 decades at that point, or more, 2.5 decades. Avo, the commercial end of Avo was not correct. I mean, Avo was discounted. And so, one of the key things that we did with Camacho and Avo was price protect the brands. And that changes the game for retail. For retailers to buy in and to get behind it. Avo also didn't necessarily have. You had a man, right? And the story behind the man was beautiful, but it wasn't to the level that it was consumable.
Avo was slowing down. It wasn't.
Avo was slowing down. The man was aging when the brand needed to modernize and euthanize. So.
And now, so you get Avo, and then a year and a half, 2 years ago, or year and
it was 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, and then you get sort of this interesting role where you're. So Jim Young, I think we should preface this, but Jim Young gets sent back to Europe to go assist Davidoff at the headquarters. So there's now a gap. They don't replace Jim immediately. So you're now put in this position where you are running the U.S. sales force, or overseeing the U.S. sales force. You still have your job as director of marketing for everything that's not Davidoff and Duke.
By the way, I still have those jobs.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
But you had this weird sort of title situation where you were doing multiple things. Did you have any experience running like the sales force before, or overseeing a sales force?
I had never been in sales, and I think that was the benefit of that. I had been in the business of torturing salespeople.
Yeah.
Really, when I was able to grab a hold of the sales force, there was a lot of interesting things. All the things that I had been complaining about or wasn't happy about now became my responsibility to change.
So let's run through like a couple of them, just in general, because it's kind of a unique thing to have here.
Say it again?
It's a unique perspective to have that you have, and also have somebody that's got direct experience. So, like, what were some of those things that you felt like were lacking with the Davidoff sales force?
Well, I mean, the industry was changing, to be honest. I mean, the industry started to take a little bit of a turn when I took over, and it's led up to kind of where we are now. And one of the things that the guys, they weren't as empowered and on their front foot as they possibly could be within retail. So we made a couple of changes on the back end in how they activate and how they use marketing money and promotional money, so that they're able to go into the point of sale and we have this moniker in the company, and it's it really is a way of life for them where it's indispensable business partner. And we, while we were living and breathing this, we weren't necessarily bringing it to life 100%. And what we did in turn was make them even further the CEOs of their territory, to where they were responsible for everything: the activation, the return on investment, and also, ultimately, being able to be that indispensable business partner to the retailer, being able to solve their problems on their front foot at the point of sale.
And so for consumers, that's going to be something like the Diva Lay giveaways. Yeah, you can tilt that up.
Yeah.
So that would be something like the Diva Lay giveaways. Now you guys are doing drones. There was the big green eggs.
It's everything. I mean,
but it's also managing which accounts are worthy and could generate the sales to justify giving somebody a $2,000 speaker to give away.
Correct.
As opposed to just the marketing team saying, okay, we're going to do 40 events, and here's where, here's the dots where we're going.
Without a doubt. I mean, that was part of it. That was kind of a second phase of it. The other thing too is, in most cases, sales guys just think about sales, and we know that's, they are in many cases, the representative for our company, or the representative for our brands, in front of consumers, and honestly, to be successful, you can't just think about that, right? It's not just about the revenue that you can generate, but it's also the equity that you're building in the brand, which then in turn builds value for the retailer.
And so, as we sort of talk about the current, the industry continuing to change on a daily basis, particularly this week, where do you see the future long term? Or I guess something long term, but where do you see it in the next 18 months in terms of what Davidoff needs to be doing to continue to succeed or grow?
To be honest, I mean, we've got a lot of great foundational things that we've built within the company. I mean, we've built a lot of equity within the brands. and we've built a lot of unique platforms in terms of promotions and how we engage consumers. I mean, definitely for us, it's dialing that up. One of the big things that we just did in early May was changing an ERP system. Probably the last thing that you would think that I would be excited about, but
no,
I'm excited
I'm sure the
about.
consumers are loving it.
Yeah, consumers are loving it.
Yeah.
But this is half-wheel, right? This is not.
I guess, but I mean, I would imagine we're mostly at the consumer point.
Right.
Hopefully the retailers are here.
Yeah.
For those of the ERP, for those people who don't know,
Yeah.
it's the system that kind of runs the back end of inventory and sales, making sure the product gets from your factories in Dominican Republic and Honduras, gets to Pinellas, and then gets from Pinellas to the retail stores, and that there's no gaps in it, so you're not walking into a store and wondering where your cigars are.
Exactly.
Which, for those people that don't know, not to cut you off here, but that is a massive undertaking. Consumers
It is a massive undertaking.
will definitely be aware of it. With Cigars International, they had a...
My hair was black in April.
Well, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But Cigars International a couple of years ago had a massive issue with when they converted over their ERP and their warehouse system, and it led to... We still don't really know the total carnage, but tens of thousands of orders inevitably, getting screwed up.
Yeah, I felt for them through that process, and luckily for us, we didn't go through that. That was in excess of a year of planning. But what it does is it sets us up to be one of the more efficient logistics platforms within the business. So if we look at opportunities like folks looking for distribution, folks looking to expand their sales network and whatnot. I mean, and
they should come see you on Saturday.
They should come see me on Saturday between the hours of 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. at the booth.
All right, so one last question before we let you go here. So, I mean, but from like a marketing perspective, we saw the rise of big ring gauge. You certainly, with Payback, got into that with Room 101. The barrel age stuff, which is not not a new concept. Perdomo, Laura, we've been doing it for years, but you guys made it a big focal point of your market. Where do you think? I mean, I know there's no new white label product at the show this year. I don't know if there's new Camacho or Ava product, but
there is new Camacho and Ava.
Oh, great!
According to Scott Colliser, you're going to have the press release today.
Oh, great! That'll be wonderful. Since
if you're listening, Scott Colliser, that's your cue. Hit the send button.
Like, where do you think, marketing-wise, what do you think that trend is for the latter half of 2019, 2020 in terms of what's the next tagline the cigar industry is going to be using to market to their consumers?
I mean, you'll see it, and you've probably seen it with Davidoff so far this year, but we're really refocusing in on our core. To be honest, you can build your business on new products all day, right? But then you get into a cycle that you can't get out of. And that it's not good for us. I mean, if you think of our business all the way back to the growing and fermenting and what that means to all steps of the process, going back crop to shop, it's not very sustainable. And if you think of it from a retail perspective as well, sure, everybody's looking for new product, right? But
are they at this point?
I think people still are. I think still people are. But
it would
to
be a
honest,
boring day at Half-Wheel if they aren't. But by the same token, like I seem to talk to retailers more and more, and it seems like they're much more focused on what are we going to get that's going to sell. My phone is blowing up, so I wonder if Scott has sent those press releases.
I think consumers. I mean, I definitely think consumers, and I just think and it's not as dominant as it was in the past couple of years. But I think there's definitely the want for new stuff. And we have that, but focusing on our core is where we're going to be able to build sustainable business and continue building the equity on our brands. To be honest,
and for consumers, if the core business isn't doing well, then the special projects probably aren't going to happen.
The special projects are not going to happen because you can't pay the lights,
and you probably aren't getting Diva Phantoms at your event.
Right.
All right, that is Dylan Austin. We've talked about Diva Phantoms quite a bit here, so I'm going to let Dylan go, and we're going to wrap up this live show. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Dylan is incredible. It is no longer like 2013. We can't just spend hours, at a bar anymore.
I don't even drink anymore.
It's questionable. It's like 2-drink limit per week.
Yeah.
All right, so Dylan's going to walk out of here, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm sure I'll see you around. Maybe.
Cool.
Or maybe you'll just be in meetings for the entire show. Thanks, Dylan. Thanks. All right, so that is the end of the live show and our guest here. In terms of what is coming up next, it is an absolute amount of craziness, but we will take a little bit of a break tomorrow. There is a major announcement coming from the IPCPR. If you'd like to learn more about that, just type in Consumer Day on Half-Wheel, and you will, I'm looking at it. I'm still looking at it. So If you type in Consumer Day on Halfwheel, you'll find out about what that major announcement is. It's scheduled for 5:15 local time tomorrow, and it will inevitably involve the rebranding of the IPCPR as well as the planned CigarCon for 2020. Patrick and I will be there, and probably more people covering it. Unfortunately, it's at 5:15 local time, so it won't be out till 8:15 East Coast time, so late Friday night, which is normally not when you want to make big positive announcements. Normally that's when you're firing people, but nevertheless, that's what's happening tomorrow. I'm sure there'll be some more content going up on Halfwheel in terms of new products and other things between today and tomorrow. And then Saturday morning, the absolute chaos starts. It is the IPCPR Convention Trade Show, the world's largest and most important cigar event. We will be covering it as we do every year, so that includes the booth posts. About 140 booths will be covered. That will include text, photographs, videos. Davidoff is once again sponsoring our coverage of the 2019 IPCPR Convention and Trade Show, so we'll have daily giveaways as we've done in the past. And then we will also be continuing these Facebook Lives. They won't be as grand or as long as these are today. Instead, what we'll be doing is we'll have 3 of them each morning, day 1, day 2, and day 3, with 3 different guests and 3 different hosts. So Patrick Lee will kick things off with Juan Ignacio Martinez from Hoyta, Nicaragua. He will be the guest on the first day. And then on day 2 of the show, I will be joined by Klaus-Peter Kellner. And Klaus and I will talk about something. There's no new Davidoff products this year, so we'll talk about what it's like growing up as a Kellner. He is the son of Hanky Kellner, who is the grower behind a lot of the tobaccos that Davidoff uses. On day 3, Brooks Whittington will be piloting this wonderful ship. He will be interviewing Carson Sereno. All the times are up on the site, and the Facebook Live or Facebook and YouTube versions will get scheduled throughout that. We've got the daily posts that are coming from all 4 of us. So Brian Burt is also here. He's been manning the camera back there, or manning the software behind the camera. He'll be giving you his daily thoughts as well as his booth coverage, as will Brooks, Patrick, and I throughout the show. Heather is also back for this year. She's in Las Vegas and has also been kind of behind the scenes today. And she will be providing some daily updates this year. We're going to have a little bit more from Heather, who just helps us out during these events because we need all the help we can get. And I won't forget about Kim, our photo editor. She's not here in Las Vegas, but she will be editing our photographs throughout the show. If last year's any indication, we're talking about 140 posts, 140 companies we covered. Brian's trying to get your attention for something. Sorry, there's a lot of things going on in the background. So I'd like to thank all of our guests, Dylan Austin, Steve Saka, Skip Martin, Nick Perdomo, Fabien Ziegler, and most importantly, Matt Arcella and the team here at Davidoff of Geneva since 1911 in Las Vegas. They've been great hosts. It has been so pleasant to be here. There's cold air conditioning below my feet. There is the ability to smoke. We have bartenders so they can give us drinks, which is so much better than last year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the upgraded production quality, the lack of forklifts trying to run into us. We certainly try to make this better every year, and I would also be remiss if I didn't thank all of our staff that's been working behind the scenes to try to make sure that things like cameras and microphones and lights and all those things that we've had issues with in the past aren't failing. So we're going to wrap things up right now. If you have any questions about what's going on at the trade show, you can tag us on social media. You can comment in a post. And don't forget, there is 2 more days left to enter, or no, 1 more day. You have today and tomorrow left to enter the JC Newman contest. Leave a comment on any post that we've published since Saturday. I don't know, I guess June 22nd through now, through June 29th. I don't know when we're going to announce the winner of that prize, probably not until after the show, but don't forget to leave a comment on any of the posts and you'll be entered to win. You must be living in the continental US because that humidor is massive and I don't think JC Newman wants to ship it to the Netherlands. So that is it. I don't know if Brian Burt knows how to turn off the software.
So here's the new latest app.
Does Brian Burt know how to turn off the software? All right, so Brian Burt's going to run the ad and then he's going to turn off the software and we're going to call it a day.